A man was dragged into a world of urban legends. He knew every single detail of this horror story. But if he wanted to make it out alive, he had to get the others on his side. Even though he knew the only way to survive, there was one huge problem. He was a hopeless coward. He was the kind of guy who could pass out just from looking at a creepy picture. And the only escape route happened to be absolutely terrifying. It was a station covered in eyeballs. A station swallowed completely by darkness. And a station where everything was flipped upside down. If no one got off with him, he might actually die from fear alone. At that moment, a host appeared in front of Kim Sol-um. Welcome to Daydream Company. All of you are the chosen candidates. Kim Sol-um immediately felt that something was wrong, because he knew that name far too well. This mysterious pharmaceutical company was said to be capable of creating anything. The host explained that they were all new recruits and would soon be assigned to the field exploration team. But as far as Kim Sol-um knew, the field exploration team was infamous for being a suicide squad. The people around him started whispering, saying they had never heard of such a team before. Why would a pharmaceutical company even need something like that? Kim Sol-um instantly sensed danger and turned to run. But the host behind him spoke again. You will now be sent to the assessment site. Good luck on your test. The moment he finished speaking, he snapped his fingers. Everyone's vision went black. When Kim Sol-um opened his eyes again, he was already sitting inside a train. And the train was moving at full speed. Dear passengers, this train will not stop at any station. To ensure a pleasant arrival at your final destination, please listen carefully to the following announcement. The passengers quickly realized the doors would not open. Some thought it was advanced technology, while others assumed it was some kind of escape room event. But Kim Sol-um, sitting in the back, knew very clearly that this was nothing like that. He never imagined that simply looking for a job would drag him into something this insane. Daydream Company, the field exploration team. All of it was actually a deadly survival game, and the station they were approaching was Sadness Station. Kim Sol-um slowly stood up. Right now, he was inside a ghost story, and he already understood what the company was planning. They wanted to use the monsters from these urban legends to eliminate some of the employees. Then the station announcement rang out. This stop is Sadness Station. Passengers whose final destination is Sadness Station, please exit now. The doors will close in 3 seconds. Everyone stared at the strange words Sadness Station ahead of them, completely confused. None of them had ever heard of a station with that name. Kim Sol-um was getting more anxious by the second. But the others were already rushing to get off the train. Just as they were about to step through the doors, Kim Sol-um quickly shouted, "You heard the announcement. This place is called Sadness Station. What kind of station in Korea has a name like that?" Someone immediately shoved the blame onto him. "If something happens to us, are you going to take responsibility? The doors are open right now." Kim Sol-um was about to explain, but someone else suddenly spoke up. "I think he has a point. We should observe the situation first." But the doors were about to close, and in a panic, many people still rushed off the train. As for the person who had just spoken up for Kim Sol-um, he seemed to be half a step too late and was stopped right in front of the doors. Looking at the people who had managed to get off, he was filled with regret. If he had been just a little faster, he would not have been left on the train. So he immediately blamed everything on Kim Sol-um. Kim Sol-um understood how they felt. They probably just wanted to throw everything behind them and run. Unfortunately, getting off the train meant certain death. The two people who got off even started worrying about the ones still inside. Were the people on the train really going to be fine? But at that exact moment, the sign for Sadness Station began to melt. Then, a corrosive liquid started dripping down from it. A drop suddenly landed on one man's head. In the next second, his entire body melted away. For the people who had stepped onto the platform, the scene before them was pure hell. The other person finally realized what was happening and tried to run. But no matter how hard he ran, there was no escape. The entire ceiling was melting, leaving him with nowhere to go. In the end, he also turned into a puddle of liquid. Kim Sol-um had already expected this outcome. Still, he had warned them, and they were the ones who refused to listen. This was the fate of those who chose the wrong answer. Everyone stared at the horrifying scene outside the window and fell completely silent. After this station, the new employee's probation period officially began. 1 minute later, the train started moving again. Daydream Company had authority over the darkness. In other words, the darkness referred to supernatural stories, and Daydream Company employees were sent into those stories to carry out missions. Even the probation period for new employees would take place inside ghost stories. The train will now depart from Seoul Station. To ensure a comfortable arrival at your destination, please pay attention to the announcements. By now, the train had fallen into complete chaos. To be honest, Kim Sol-eum had an advantage over the other new employees, because he had read the entire encyclopedia of ghost stories. He could not help thinking that it would have been nice if he were a typical, overpowered protagonist, thrown into a world he actually loved. But unfortunately, he had one fatal flaw, and that flaw alone made him completely unfit to be the main character. He could not handle anything scary. In other words, he was a hopeless coward. Text was fine. He could read scary stories with genuine interest. But the moment those stories became images, he turned into a coward who could not handle them at all. He could not look at any picture related to ghost stories. Whenever his friends invited him to watch a horror movie, he always refused without hesitation. They always laughed at him for it. But he simply could not force himself to be brave. The worst time, he actually passed out inside the movie theater. At this point, there were only 8 survivors left on the train, and the next stop was Grudge Station. Kim Sol-eum sighed heavily to himself. Of all places, it had to be Grudge Station. At that point, he felt like they might as well just kill him now. Right then, a strange light suddenly appeared beside his hand. He looked up in confusion and saw that it was actually a notebook with the dark exploration log written on the cover. Kim Sol-eum was completely puzzled and had no idea what this thing was. And judging from everyone else's reactions, it seemed like he was the only one who could see it. As for the others, they were already too terrified to even move. So Kim Sol-eum quietly reached out and poked the notebook. In the next second, the pages began flipping on their own. Then an X-shaped button appeared on the page. If he was not mistaken, this thing was probably related to the prize he had won earlier. After all, it was merchandise from the dark exploration log. But the real question was, why did he have something like this with him? A few hours earlier, Kim Sol-eum had gone to a department store. A special event was being held there, based on an online ghost story universe, centered around exploring the darkness and all kinds of paranormal phenomena. And Kim Sol-eum was a hardcore fan who was deeply obsessed with that universe. That day, he stood in a long line just to buy some merchandise. He had even taken a day off from work just to come. In fact, he had also shown up the week before, but back then, he had been too scared to try the prize wheel. But the pop-up event was ending the next day, and if he did not do it now, he would miss his chance for good. So in the end, he forced himself to give it a try. Soon, a prize wheel appeared in front of him. Every section matched a different reward, and all he had to do was press the button at any time to make it stop. He figured he would probably only get a participation prize. But even that was better than walking away with nothing. So he pressed the button, but to his complete shock, he actually hit the grand prize. Even Kim Sol-eum was stunned. Was his luck really that good today? The staff kept congratulating him excitedly. You actually won the jackpot. And the grand prize was a special mystery box. After that, Kim Sol-eum wrote down his name. When he opened the box, he found a phone inside, one that was supposedly made specifically for character creation. Right after that, he also received an employee ID card. The staff excitedly told him that the ID belonged to Daydream Company, one of the 3 most famous factions in the novel. Kim Sol-eum already knew that, of course. To put it simply, Daydream Company was a major corporation that dealt with supernatural stories, while the field exploration team was the group that had to rush out and investigate paranormal incidents the moment anything unusual happened. This made them the most overworked team of all. The staff told him to treasure it carefully, while Kim Sol-eum's first instinct was to shove it somewhere he would not have to look at it. But right then, he suddenly felt that something about the atmosphere had changed. The scene in front of him started to warp, and even the staff members' faces began to look disturbing. Then, a powerful wave of dizziness swallowed him whole. When Kim Sol-eum opened his eyes again, he had already arrived in this world, and the item he had received earlier was a tool that could display his memories as text. He attached it to his phone. Sure enough, a golden light immediately flashed across the screen. The dark exploration log contained all kinds of information, and somehow, it actually worked. The parts of the dark exploration log that he only vaguely remembered appeared on his phone screen in perfect detail. The dark exploration log he had entered was a collection of urban legends created by hundreds of different writers, all woven together through their collective imagination. Just remembering every ghost story on the spot was already hard enough, not to mention figuring out how to survive and making the right choice in every dangerous situation. But with this tool, things were completely different. Now, he just needed to find the plot of this chapter. Kim Sol-eum quickly scanned through the contents. Then, he turned off his phone. Now he understood that the next stop was Grudge Station. After reading through those escape cases, He had a rough idea of where he needed to get off. But there was still one problem. How was he supposed to convince the others to get off at the correct station with him? After all, they were already scared out of their minds. No matter what, Kim So-lim had to bring as many people with him as possible. And it was not because he was some kind-hearted hero. He had no time or energy to play savior. He was a coward, which meant he simply could not get off at that disgusting station alone. Because it was a station covered in eyeballs. A station swallowed by darkness. And a station where everything was flipped upside down. There was more than a 99% chance he would faint halfway through and fail to escape. If he got off at the right station, only to pass out and die there, that would be beyond embarrassing. So Kim So-lim slowly stood up. It was time to win over a few people in the train car. People tended to follow the crowd. As long as someone took the lead and got off, the others would probably follow. Just then, he heard a voice. What the hell is going on? It's not like this is some ghost story. Kim So-lim turned his head, and his eyes immediately lit up. Finally, he had found her. A girl was sitting there, staring at her phone. Kim So-lim quickly walked over and said, "Excuse me, did you just say ghost story?" She explained that she usually watched ghost story videos online, so that was what came to mind. Then she briefly explained her situation. One moment, she had been in the auditorium, and the next, it had turned into a subway car. The whole thing felt incredibly strange. And on top of that, people had just died right in front of them. Those scenes made her feel sick. She almost threw up on the spot. Kim So-lim actually felt the same way. This situation was so unreal that he could barely think straight. But the girl froze for a second and said in surprise, "Really? You look like the calmest person here." Easy for her to say. She had never seen how instantly Kim So-lim could pass out. Just then, another person walked over to them. He said, "I was wondering earlier. You're the guy who was sitting next to me, right?" Kim So-lim finally remembered that this person had indeed been sitting next to him back in the auditorium. The man quietly asked where he had gotten that item, and what he was pointing at was the food box in Kim So-lim's hand. Then the man reached out his hand and introduced himself. "My name is Baek Si-han. What's yours?" The moment Kim So-lim heard that name, he was shocked. Because Baek Si-han was a star employee of Daydream Company. His final position was manager, and he had taken part in 106 recorded explorations, 17 of which were classified as special cases. He also had a nickname, Sharp Tongue. Kim So-lim never expected someone like him to show up here. The woman also stood up and introduced herself. Her name was Go Young-eun, but Kim So-lim had never heard that name before. That meant she was either someone whose true identity had never been revealed, someone who handled supernatural incidents so efficiently that she left the company early, or someone who was going to die very soon. Now, it was Kim So-lim's turn to introduce himself. In a situation like this, they needed to form an alliance first. While they were talking, the people in the train car naturally split into several groups. Some seemed to be trying to contact people in the other cars, but those attempts were doomed to fail, because on this ghost train, moving between train cars was forbidden. Then the announcement rang out. "We have arrived at Bliss Station." Someone immediately said that the station sounded pretty nice, but Kim So-lim's face turned grim. They absolutely could not choose a station just because the name sounded pleasant. First of all, in this ghost story, the station themes kept changing, so they could not treat a station as safe just because its name sounded good. But they could study past cases. For example, there was a case where the station names were marked by colors, such as red, yellow, and blue. 2 people successfully escaped, and the platform they chose was the blue platform. In another case, the station names were marked by body parts, such as left arm, cornea, and heart. That escape attempt failed, and the platform they chose was the cochlea platform. There was also a case where the station names were marked by years such as 2008, 2012, and 2016. That escape attempt also failed, and the platform they chose was the 2026 platform. There were even cases where the station names were marked with the letters A through Z, along with the names of serial killers. Even after studying all the way up to case 56, one thing was clear. Whether a station name sounded positive or not had absolutely nothing to do with the odds of survival. But someone was already getting restless. "This station looks pretty normal. Should we get off and see if we can find someone?" That sentence scared Kim So-lim badly because he still needed to recruit teammates. He could not just watch them walk straight into danger. So he immediately stopped them. "Are you sure you want to get off here? How can you be certain this station is safe? I'm guessing most of you already think this is some kind of ghost story, right? But whether it's a ghost story or a horror movie, have you ever seen anyone survive to the end by relying on instinct alone? without any logic or reasoning. Are you really willing to gamble your lives on this? A woman instantly screamed back at him. Then do you have some brilliant reasoning the rest of us missed? Kim Sol said that he had indeed found a clue, and that clue was the announcement. You should remember what the broadcast said at the very beginning, right? From the start, the train's announcement has been telling us the truth. It kept telling us to listen carefully and follow the broadcast. But someone still argued back. Bliss Station sounds perfectly fine. Isn't living in bliss and happiness the whole point of life? Kim Sol asked in return. Is Bliss Station really your final destination? The woman immediately snapped. Are you sticking your nose in too much? If you make us miss our chance to escape, are you going to take responsibility? Kim Sol answered directly, I will take responsibility, but first, you have to listen to me. At that moment, the train doors were slowly closing. Kim Sol had already warned them, and they should listen to him now. At the very least, no one should blame him for stopping them from getting off. But unexpectedly, someone from the train car ahead actually got off. That scared Kim Sol so badly, his heart sank. It was over. Now he really had to witness something horrifying. He could not believe he had to watch what was about to happen with his own eyes. At that moment, a large amount of gold appeared on the ground, except it was all in liquid form. The people who got off instantly sank into it. Their bodies began melting little by little. In the end, their bodies were completely separated from what was left of them. The scene before them was like hell on earth, and they paid the price for their choice. The people who had stayed on the train were overwhelmed with relief. Thankfully, Kim Sol had stopped them. Then, someone grabbed Kim Sol by the shoulder. Are you sure you can find a safe place? You're going to take responsibility for us, right? Kim Sol replied, as long as you listen to me, you'll definitely be fine. Without realizing it, Kim Sol had become the person everyone expected to have the right answer. But his legs were already trembling like crazy. Pak Si-han praised Kim Sol saying he was truly impressive. People like him were rare these days. Since Kim Sol had made such a bold claim, Pak Si-han sincerely hoped he could actually back it up. Kim Sol asked Baek Si-han, have you thought about which station you want to get off at? Baek Si-han said no. He did not know much about this kind of thing. If Baek Si-han had really worked as an employee before, that meant he must have passed this entrance exam. In other words, he simply had not found his footing yet, so Kim Sol needed to keep watching him for now. The train continued moving forward. Meanwhile, people in the car ahead had already started fighting. Kim Sol wanted to tell them to sit down quickly, because the broadcast had already told everyone to stay seated. But by now, it was too late. They were entering a curved section of the track. The announcement warned everyone to sit properly, or they could be flung across the car by the force. But those people had already been scared out of their minds, and their sanity was on the verge of collapse. This proved one thing beyond doubt. The broadcast was their lifeline. That definitely helped Kim Sol survive, but honestly, it was way too terrifying. Then the announcement rang out again. Dear passengers, this is an announcement from Abyss Transport. We have lost an item. If you are holding that item, please get off at the next station and hand it over to the staff. Kim Sol's heart skipped a beat. Could it be the record escape box? The announcement continued. The lost item is the right eyeball of an adult male in his 20s with type A blood. At that moment, the train broadcast was actually telling them to search for a missing item. Kim Sol immediately realized that this was an escape case from the extra records, an unconditional escape ticket. However, only one person could escape with it. He figured he should just pretend he had not heard anything and let it pass. Someone suggested finding out who matched the target first, but after checking around they found no one who was a male in his 20s with type A blood. When someone asked Kim Sol he said he had type AB blood. Of course, that was a lie, because he was actually type A. This would pass eventually anyway, so there was no need for him to expose himself as a possible target. Soon, someone spoke up and said, I match all of those conditions. But in the next second, he sensed that something was wrong, because Baek Si-han was staring at him coldly. Baek Si-han leaned closer and asked in a low voice, You said you have type A blood, right? At the same time, the announcement rang out. We have arrived at Rage Station. The moment the doors slowly opened, Baek Si-han made his move. He said calmly, Sorry about this. Someone is looking for you. In the next second, Baek Si-han jammed his phone straight into the man's eye. Everyone who saw it turned pale with horror. Then, Baek Si-han kicked him hard. The man's entire body was sent flying out of the train while he screamed, My eye. At the same time, Baek Si-han slowly stepped off the train as well. Clearly, he was planning to hand that man's eyeball over to the staff. Baek Shihan seemed like a completely different person now. He said coldly, "Didn't the broadcast say we could escape as long as we handed over one eye? What are you idiots waiting for? They said we could get off as long as we returned the lost item." Everyone else was stunned. Baek Shihan did not expect people who only wanted others to take responsibility for their lives to understand anyway. Go Young-eun had not processed what just happened either, but Kim Solim was not surprised. After all, Baek Shihan's nickname was Viper. Kim Solim was not shocked that he could do something like this. Kim Solim had originally thought that was only because Baek Shihan was still a rookie right now. But in the dark exploration log, Baek Shihan was supposed to sacrifice his own left eye. This time, he simply blinded another target instead. Even with the announcement as a clue, that move was unbelievably bold. But the problem was, he did not need to go that far at all, because just now, Kim Solim had definitely seen something nearby. First of all, a lost item was not something that belonged to you, it was something someone else had lost. And Kim Solim had already found the eyeball of that 27-year-old man with type A blood. In truth, this lost and found scenario was basically a treasure hunt. You had to find an item inside the train car that matched the description perfectly. Then, take it with you. It was true that some people in the past had accidentally sacrificed their own body parts in order to escape. Kim Solim had no right to judge Baek Sihon's method of survival, but this had definitely crossed the line. So Kim Solim simply tapped on the glass and signaled for Baek Shihan to look at what he was holding. When Baek Shihan saw the eyeball in his hand, his eyes widened in shock. He could not believe that the broadcast had really been asking them to find an actual eyeball. Then the announcement rang out. "Passengers who have exited the train, please wait a moment. Staff will now provide service." In the next second, countless syringes appeared. The syringes all flew straight toward Baek Shihan's left eye. With a sickening sound, the advanced equipment forcibly removed his left eye. The lost item has been safely handed over to the station staff. No one inside the train felt any sympathy for Baek Shihan. Go Young-in checked the injured man and said his cornea was definitely damaged. After all, she was somewhat of a medical student. Soon, the train arrived at another station, and everyone turned to look at Kim Solim as if he had become the center of the group. Go Young-eun, standing beside him, could tell that the burden on him had become heavy, because everyone was now depending on him. But Kim Solim was actually grateful that they were relying on him. After all, he had only stirred them up because he was scared and anxious himself. Then, Go Young-in said she had been thinking about something earlier. Regarding the final destination, Kim Solim mentioned, maybe the final fate of every person was death. Since death was the final destination of life, she had wondered whether they should get off when a word like that appeared. But that sounded too much like telling people to go die, so she had kept quiet. Kim Solim thought her idea was actually pretty convincing. But the most important question now was this: what did destination really mean? According to the dictionary, a destination could mean the goal you wanted to achieve, or the direction you were heading toward. And the theme of this train was intuition. As long as they followed the instructions, their safety would be guaranteed. Even the people who got off at the wrong stations had paid the price in a very direct and obvious way. That meant the destination mentioned by the train probably referred to a place they had not yet reached. In other words, something they lacked. In the case of the blue platform, everyone who did not have a blue item managed to escape. At the station marked with the names of serial killers, most people escaped as well, because they were not serial killers. Once he thought about it that way, the standard for choosing a station became much simpler. Since the theme of this station set was emotions, they needed to find an emotion they currently lacked. And this station was Peace Station, which meant they could get off here. This was their destination. They needed to leave the train at this station. At that moment, they had arrived at Peace Station. According to the records, the word peace carried the meaning of safety, order, and calm. But in this situation, not a single one of them truly free themselves from worry and anxiety. Kim Solim asked the injured man if he could still stand. Then, he supported the injured man and led the 4 people behind him out of the train car. Once Kim Solim took the lead, everyone followed. At this point, there was no turning back. But the scene outside was terrifying. Everyone's heart skipped a beat, and they all looked at Kim Solim. Are you sure this is the final answer? Out of all the possible choices, this is the place you picked? To be honest, Kim Solim did not even want to get off anymore. So how was he supposed to convince the others to follow him? But Go Young-eun spoke up and said she believed getting off here was the right choice, because Kim So-lum was the most certain out of all of them. And when everyone else was panicking, he had stayed calm the entire time. The others only cared about saving themselves and made everything worse, but he did not. Either way, they had to listen to someone, and Go Young-eun would rather trust the words of a good person. So, Go Young-eun was the first to take a step forward. To her, staying safely inside the train was actually the wrong answer. She turned around and told everyone to get off with her. Then the man leaning on Kim So-lum's shoulder spoke up as well. "I'm willing to trust you too. Go on. Don't let me slow you down." In truth, Kim So-lum was only too scared to get off, but at this point, there was no turning back. If everyone got off here, then this place had to be safe, because it represented something none of them had. The group walked forward, one after another, and soon arrived at a set of stairs. A sign above them showed an exit. Then, a blinding point of light appeared ahead. When Kim So-lum came back to his senses, he was already back in his seat. He immediately turned to look at the person beside him. Sure enough, Baek Shihan was there too. Except one of his eyes was now missing. On Kim So-lum's left and right, a total of 5 people had cleared the test. There were 2 more behind him, including Kim So-lum himself. A total of 8 people had survived. The host burst into laughter. This probation period has produced 22 graduates. What an incredible record. Congratulations on completing your probation period. All of you are true elites. I wonder what the Human Resources Department will think. But no matter how grand his words sounded, no one reacted. So the host continued. Then shall we choose the finest elite among you? In the next second, a spotlight shone on Kim So-lum. Congratulations, Mr. Kim. Kim So-lum slowly stood up. It seemed there was no avoiding this after all. He had received a bag last time too, and seeing the host smile, he could not feel happy at all. The moment Kim So-lum took the bag, the host suddenly lowered his voice and told him to look carefully inside. When Kim So-lum looked up, the host had already returned to normal. Next, please welcome Baek Shihan to the stage. Just like that, everyone went up one by one to receive their rewards. Seeing people who had spent a long time inside their ghost stories made Kim So-lum realize that each train probably had its own timeline. Still, he really did not want to sit next to Baek Shihan. Once everything was over, that lunatic would probably take himself to the hospital. Very good. Since everyone has received their gifts, you are now full-time employees. Congratulations on completing your probation period and officially becoming members of the field exploration team. However, not every graduate put in the same amount of effort. Some people were simply carried through by others. So, in this company, where fairness comes first, every freeloader will be weeded out. In the next second, the people who had merely followed Kim So-lum out disappeared into smoke. Go Young-eun was fine, because she had stepped out of the train on her own back then. The one-eyed man was the same, but the others were not so lucky. They died right there. This was completely beyond Kim So-lum's expectations, and now, only 13 employees remained. Seeing this, Go Young-eun almost threw up on the spot. The remaining survivors all received their roles, but Go Young-eun immediately said she wanted to quit. "I want to resign." The host looked completely confused. "You want to quit such a wonderful job? Why not listen to our benefits first, then decide?" Go Young-eun was also terrified, so she asked, "If I listen to the benefits and still want to quit, can I leave safely?" The host replied, "Yes, you may resign without any punishment, but after hearing the benefits, you might change your mind." The moment Kim So-lum heard that, he knew Go Young-eun was finished, because this had to be a benefit she could never refuse, and that benefit was the wish voucher, an item that could grant any wish, even bringing the dead back to life. At that moment, the host started bragging about how incredible the company was, even boasting that it had developed a treatment for hair loss. Then he snapped his fingers. "But above all else, our company has one product that surpasses everything. It is a potion capable of granting any wish. A slideshow probably won't do it justice, so allow me to demonstrate it myself. As luck would have it, today just happens to be the day I received my wish voucher." With that, he immediately swallowed the liquid inside. In the next second, his hair came back full and flowing, and the host literally transformed into a beautiful young man. See? That is the power of the wish voucher. Everyone was stunned. The wish voucher could actually do something as outrageous as turning back time. If your field exploration team earns an outstanding performance evaluation, it means your team can obtain wish vouchers at twice the rate of other departments. In fact, most of the people who obtained wish vouchers the fastest all came from the field exploration team. In other words, members of the field exploration team have the best chance of getting one. But in reality, This was just the host's clever wording. The number of people who actually obtained a wish voucher was probably even smaller than the number of casualties. Even so, it was not a scam. Everyone had just seen with their own eyes that wish vouchers were real, and the silence that followed felt like the final calm before a storm. Then someone spoke up and asked, "Can a single wish voucher really bring the dead back to life?" As he asked the question, it was as if a faint spark of hope had returned to his eyes. The host smiled. "For that kind of question, we have a standard answer. The answer is no." That was probably exactly what everyone expected him to say, but then he changed his tone and continued. "In truth, a single wish voucher can fulfill any wish its holder desires. So yes, even bringing the dead back to life is absolutely possible. So now, whether you choose to stay or leave is entirely up to you. Even if you resign, the company will not punish you in any way. Anyone who wishes to reject this offer may leave now. But those who wish to accept it should remain here and put on the masks inside your shopping bags." Only then did Kim Sol-em remember the gift bag the host had handed him earlier. He had never imagined that he would really get something like this. When he opened it, there was a mask inside, along with a business card. At that point, he finally understood why the host had told them to look carefully inside the bag. So this was the mask mentioned in the novel. The mask had been developed by the company and was specifically given to new employees. According to what employees said, the theme of the masks changed with every hiring batch. For example, workers wearing ant masks and mantis masks were likely from the same recruitment class. This was the symbol of Daydream Company's field exploration team. To be honest, Kim Sol-em almost wanted to run away right then and there. This was a world where dark anomalies lurked beneath everyday life. A coward like him had no chance of surviving here. But if resigning meant going back to being cannon fodder in a horror story, then he had to find a way to escape this world. And the only way to do that was to obtain a wish voucher. Everyone had a reason they absolutely needed a wish voucher, so they had no choice but to stay. That included Go Young-eun, who had wanted to leave just moments ago. And it included Kim Sol-em too, because he wanted to escape this world and return to the real world he came from. The moment a new employee put on a mask, their form would change, sometimes into a unique shape entirely their own. Kim Sol-em was also curious what form he would end up taking. In the next second, a pair of horns grew out of his head. Could they be deer antlers? Go Young-eun noticed the horns on his head and froze for a moment. Then she smiled and said, "Your horns are really cute. I have horns too. Mine are goat horns." Finally, the host congratulated everyone once again for joining the company and announced that the probation period was officially over. Everyone present had now been hired. From now on, make sure you all work hard. At that moment, Kim Sol-em saw his notebook. It read, "The Dark Exploration Log physical merchandise box has unlocked a new item." That instantly excited him. He had no idea what kind of new item had been unlocked. But checking it right now would be far too obvious, so he decided to wait until he got back to his room. After that, he endured the rest of the speech in silence. To him, it felt so long that it might as well have lasted an entire century. He had no home in this world, and he had no idea where he was supposed to live after this. When he opened his contacts, he realized all of his family's contact information had disappeared. And more importantly, someone behind him was staring at him intensely. Then the host moved on to employee benefits and explained that the company could provide housing support. And just like that, Kim Sol-em moved into the employee dorm. When he arrived at the residential complex, he saw Go Young-eun there too. He never expected her to be living here as well. Fortunately, it seemed like only the two of them were staying in the employee dorm, so there were not too many people. But in the next second, he realized that 7 out of the 13 employees had moved into the dorm. Clearly, he had been too optimistic. There were way more people here than he expected. It was a little scary, but free housing near the station was hard to refuse. Soon, Kim Sol-em arrived on the 12th floor. It was a clean, newly renovated apartment building close to the station. The company probably wanted to keep them nearby so it could overwork them at any time. That was just how bosses thought. But very quickly, he ran into another troublesome problem. Baek Si-han was standing right in front of him. The moment their eyes met, Kim Sol-em instantly switched into his crazy face act, while screaming internally that this was bad. This guy had actually become his roommate. If Baek Si-han found out he was really a coward, wouldn't he do whatever it took to kill him? The atmosphere between them instantly became painfully awkward. Baek Si-han's gaze was hostile, though it seemed the company had already treated his eye. Kim Sol-em planned to go straight back to his room. There was no need to say anything to him, but just then, Baek Si-han called out, "Hey!" Kim Sol-em immediately knew it was time to act. He turned around with an annoyed look. opened his eyes as wide as possible, and pushed his dead fish stare to the limit. Did you lose your memory? Have you already forgotten my name? Unexpectedly, this move was actually effective. Baek Si-han flinched, as if he was convinced that Kim Solom had completely lost his mind. Baek Si-han asked, "Was watching someone's eye get ripped out really that entertaining to you?" Hearing that, Kim Solom fell silent for a moment, desperately cheering himself on inside. Do not back down. Then he slowly walked over to Baek Si-han and gently placed a hand on his shoulder. Yeah, that's right. I didn't just find it entertaining. I found it extremely enjoyable. Do you know what dopamine release feels like? Thanks to you, I had a great time. I hope you can show me more performances like that in the future. I haven't seen something that interesting in a long time. Kim Sol-eum smiled at him and said, I look forward to hearing more good news from you. Make my life at this company even more enjoyable. Baek Si-han was almost scared stiff. Was the way Kim Solom acted on the train really just a disguise? Was his true nature actually that of a complete lunatic? Then, Kim Sol-eum turned around and stopped talking to him, because he had already achieved the effect he wanted. Baek Si-han probably would not mess with him again anytime soon. Based on Kim Sol-eum's years of experience dealing with clients, there was a specific term for people like Baek Si-han. They were the God complex type. People like that rewrote their own memories to justify themselves. They had no shame, no conscience, bullied the weak, feared the strong, and were impossible to reason with. But when there was something to gain, they became shockingly sharp. When dealing with someone who could invent an entire version of reality and stubbornly insist it was the truth, reasoning with them was useless. It was better to bluff and strike first. As for saying he wanted to work with him, that was obviously a lie. It was both a bluff and a precaution. After all, the chances of new employees being assigned to the same team were ridiculously low. Kim Sol-eum just needed to make up a lie convincing enough to keep himself from getting stabbed in his sleep and losing an eye along the way. Soon, Kim Sol-eum arrived at his room. The sight in front of him honestly left him stunned. It was free company housing, and the furniture was spotless, almost as if everything were brand new. There was even a private bathroom, and weekly deep cleaning only cost 100,000 won. A welcome gift sat on the desk as well, filled with premium snacks and office supplies. This was insane. The employee benefits were way too good. But since they had already been judged capable of doing the job, maybe the company was trying to lower its turnover rate. He had to admit they had thought this through. Then Kim Sol-eum noticed a diary on the desk, but he did not understand why the date written inside was from last year. It had to have been left behind by the previous employee, and on the page, only 2 words were written: run away. The problem was, Kim Sol-eum could no longer run. He had not just come to this company, he had come to this world. Now that he was alone, he hesitated over whether he should check that item. There should not be any cameras in this room, right? In the next second, the book began flipping its pages again. A small pouch fell out from inside, with a smiley face drawn on it. This had to be the smile sticker. When attached to a sentient creature, it made that creature feel a slight sense of goodwill toward the user. This had to be the smile sticker. When attached to a sentient creature, it made that creature feel a slight sense of goodwill toward the user. This cheap-looking sticker was actually an item that manipulated affection. It was more commonly known as a bribery item. Because of that, it had been completely abandoned later on. Its effect was simply too powerful. After the writers used its ability to hold gladiator-style battles against each other, they decided to remove the item from the story, which meant this might be the only one still in existence. The smile sticker could only be used by full-time employees or higher, so Kim Sol-eum must have unlocked it the moment he became a full-time employee. In other words, whenever his rank or department changed, he could receive new merchandise. This thing could definitely help him survive. They should never have dragged him into this world in the first place. Even this notebook felt like something straight out of a ghost story. After finishing all of that, Kim Sol-eum got ready to sleep. He would officially start work next week. But too much had happened in a single day, and his nerves were completely shattered. Just thinking about what had happened during the day made his head spin. Even when he closed his eyes, he felt like he was falling into endless dizziness. Time quickly moved to the next day. Go Young-eun looked at him in surprise. Mr. Kim, did you not sleep well? After everything that happened yesterday, how could he possibly sleep well? If he could sleep peacefully after that, he would not be a coward. Kim Sol-eum simply said he had other things to deal with last night and did not sleep much. Go Young-eun told him to hang in there. The field exploration team occupied floors 10 through 15, and the floor Kim Sol-eum got off on was the 13th. For some reason, even that number felt like a bad omen. Soon, He arrived at the team office. He had no idea what kind of teammates he would have. He just hoped they were easy to get along with and nothing like that Viper. When the people inside saw him arrive, they looked genuinely happy. "Hello. I heard you were assigned to Team D starting today. We've heard about you. Welcome, welcome." The two people were Park Min-sung, a senior member of Team D, and Irene, the deputy leader. At least from first impressions, they did not seem like the type to bully a new employee. Then, blue-haired Irene said, "For reference, Team D's nickname is the Rookie Graveyard." Kim Solum nearly passed out on the spot. Only then did Irene add, "I'm joking." Kim Solum seriously started wondering whether he should quit this job as soon as possible. He had no idea how long he would have to stay at this company. His new coworkers welcomed him, so Kim Solum introduced himself as well. "My name is Kim Solum." Irene told him to be careful because it was very easy to die here. She also said quitting would not be a bad thing. There were plenty of jobs outside. Park Min-sung told Irene to stop scaring the new guy. Irene had heard that Kim Sol-um was the top-ranked new employee, so she was curious about him and asked him to show off a little. Kim Sol-eum said there was nothing to be curious about. He had simply worked hard. Park Min-sung told him to take a seat for now, since the actual team leader was currently out in the field. Just then, the radio on the desk suddenly turned on. "This is the traffic forecast. Clear weather will continue throughout the day, starting this morning. Traffic conditions are also very calm, with no congestion anywhere." Kim Sol-um looked at the radio on the desk. This was obviously a weather forecast that had nothing to do with reality, and the radio itself was an urban legend. Park Min-sung casually turned it off. He muttered that this new employee was sharp as a ghost and learned surprisingly fast. This thing was a bit like a daily fortune reading. It was considered a relatively safe urban legend, and the radio's level was Twilight. Irene looked at Kim Solum and said, "You're wondering what the hell urban legends and Twilight level are, aren't you, you nerd?" Somehow, she had seen right through his thoughts. Then she handed him a small tablet. Through it, Kim Sol-um saw several things. For example, the field exploration team's new employee training video. The cutscene was incredibly boring, almost like watching a children's cartoon. "What kind of company is Daydream Company? Allow me to explain. We create every item you need, almost like magic. Did you know, even in modern society, supernatural phenomena still exist, and urban legends are becoming reality all around us. If you sleep with an electric fan turned on, it might actually kill you. The non-existent rooftop button in an elevator, the red mask, and many more terrifying urban legends have all appeared. Daydream Company manages all of these urban legends, and from them, the company harvests Dream Dew, which is used to create miraculous medicine capable of granting wishes." The animation asked another question. Then what exactly is Dream Dew? It is Daydream Company's most important resource, and there are some incredible people collecting it for us. Those incredible people are the field exploration team. After watching for a while, Kim Solum was honestly speechless. This animation was way too childish. The field exploration team's job was to collect Dream Dew, a miraculous material that could only be obtained from supernatural phenomena. Did they deliberately replace ghost stories with the term urban legends just to make everything sound less scary? Then they softened the wording and wrapped it in cute packaging to make it seem less horrifying. But this was the true nature of Daydream Company, a mysterious organization that manufactured and sold supernatural potions. Dream Dew was the main ingredient harvested from ghost stories. With enough Dream Dew, they could create medicine for immortality, and even supernatural potions that came close to manipulating reality itself. So who were the main buyers of these potions? Naturally, the politicians and upper class of this world. In the end, this whole thing was just a business. What Kim Sol-eum had in front of him was Daydream Company's Field Exploration Team Operation Manual. "The future of our company rests on your shoulders. We wish you the best of luck." Unexpectedly, the animation really did leave an impression. Park Min-sung said they did call those things urban legends and similar terms, but since there was a response manual, Kim Solum did not need to worry too much. By the way, inside the company, we usually call them dark entities. If you do not want outsiders thinking you are some ghost story nerd, you should use that term. Kim Sol-eum could not help thinking that people might just think he was a dark entity nerd instead. Then, Park Min-sung slowly stood up. "Are you ready to begin your exploration journey?" Kim Sol-eum froze. Of course he was not ready. Was he really going on a mission on his very first day? That afternoon, Park Min-sung was scheduled to carry out a light darkness exploration. Then, Irene handed Kim Sol-eum a syringe. "This is a Dream Dew collector," She told him not to lose it. Every collector had its own serial number, and losing one would be extremely troublesome. It was almost like losing your own shell. Before entering the darkness, you need to get used to wearing your mask. With that, she told Kim Soleum to try putting his mask on. So, Kim Soleum took out his deer mask. The two of them stared at the mask in surprise. Is that supposed to be a deer? Or a mouse? Fine, let's just call it a roe deer. At least that sounds stronger than a regular deer. After Kim Soleum put on the mask, the tablet in Park Min-sung's hand looked completely different. He saw an online post that read, 20 million won, or an ordinary life? Apparently there was a task online. If someone completed it, they could receive 20 million won, or they could choose to continue living a normal life. The task was to play hide-and-seek with a ghost for 3 days inside an empty convenience store, with no other people within a 10-kilometer radius. Complete it, and you got the money. Otherwise, you simply went on with your normal life. What the hell was this post even saying? Why was it such a mess? Why were they showing him this? Wasn't he supposed to be going on a darkness exploration? But right then, the two people in front of Kim Soleum suddenly disappeared. Park Min-sung smiled and said, relax, just have fun. Kim Soleum was completely speechless. On his very first day at work, he had been sent out alone to sign a contract, and inside a ghost story, no less. The Dark Exploration Log. The Urban Legend Chooses Me. An urban legend that appeared in the Dark Exploration Log, a choice-based darkness derivative scenario. After an unknown amount of time, the blinding sunlight woke Kim Soleum up. When he came back to his senses, he realized he was in a completely different place. Was this the convenience store mentioned in that online post? At first glance, nothing seemed unusual. It was just an empty convenience store with no one inside. Food, clothing, and shelter did not seem to be a problem for now. This darkness was essentially a ghost story designed to harvest mental shock and screams. In other words, his life was not supposed to be in direct danger. So for a coward like Kim Soleum, there was only one answer. He just had to get some water and survive for 3 days. But right then, he thought he saw a human face. No, it was a ghost face, and it scared him so badly he almost fainted again. Without even thinking, he knew the ghost had to be behind him. But why was it inside the refrigerator? In the ghost story that appeared in Exploration Record number 55, the victim was usually chased by a killer or a ghost. At that moment, Kim Soleum could feel the ghost reaching out toward him. If it caught him, everything would start over. In the next second, Kim Soleum returned to the convenience store again, and the time had reset to 12 o'clock. The countdown began, and an endlessly looping urban legend was now in motion. He had returned to the starting point. Rather than face this urban legend for 3 whole days, he would honestly rather not live at all. The scariest part was that 3 days might not even be the true ending point. If he kept getting caught, he would be trapped in an endless cycle of resets. A coward like him would probably go insane before 3 days even passed. He needed another plan, and first, he had to figure out where to hide. But the moment he looked down, he saw that thing. Its face was terrifying beyond words. Luckily, Kim Soleum dodged quickly. Otherwise, it would have caught him again. He had no idea how he was supposed to deal with this thing, because the ghosts seemed to be searching for him constantly. He knew it. At times like this, they always shoved their faces right in front of you. This kind of scene happened way too often. Right now, Kim Soleum was so nervous that he did not even dare look at his phone. His memory was the only thing he could rely on. So he desperately searched through his memories. He believed there had to be an anomaly here. A case where the flow of time did not match expectations. Soon, he seemed to find a similar case. Kim Soleum's expression suddenly changed. The more popular an urban legend became in a certain area, the more anomalies it produced. That was the nature of a story created by multiple authors. When a legend was first born, it followed a fixed set of rules. But as its popularity rose and more records piled up, the pattern would inevitably start repeating. That was when people began creating exceptions. They added twists to the narrative to escape repetition and boredom. The record Kim Soleum had just remembered was one of those examples. It was a record of a teen surviving for 12 hours inside an abandoned hospital, but in a legend that should have ended after 12 hours of survival, their escape took an extra 4 hours. It was a case where an anomaly had distorted the internal time of the investigation. Kim Soleum cursed his own rigid thinking. How had he not remembered this sooner? He had to think carefully. Something had definitely gone wrong in that case. Then it suddenly came back to him. The problem was that they had not received the doctor's shift change notice. One employee had accidentally cut the phone line at the counter. As a result, Even after 7:12 in the morning, the sun still had not risen. The legend did not end, and the doctor's shift continued. After 16 hours inside the darkness, the phone line was finally restored. The phone rang immediately, and the doctor answered the shift change call. At 16 hours and 11 minutes, the doctor disappeared, and the legend finally ended. Although that was a case where time had been extended, it contained a key clue. There was a specific trigger point inside the legend that could force time to end. If the legend did not end because the trigger condition that marked time had failed to activate, then the reverse should also be possible. If Kim Sol-eum activated that switch early, he might be able to end everything ahead of schedule. But right then, Kim Sol-eum heard a phone ringing, and it kept ringing over and over again. He immediately understood that the urban legend was messing with him on purpose. It seemed that thing already knew where he was hiding, but it did not come straight over to catch him. It was definitely toying with him. Kim Sol-eum had to rush out, but right now, that thing would block the counter directly, making it impossible for him to break through from the front. So his only option was to sneak around from the side. But at that moment, the thing suddenly smiled at him. Found you. In the next second, its hand reached straight toward Kim Sol-eum. With no other choice, Kim Sol-eum returned to the starting point again. 3 days. There was no way he could last that long. If this loop kept going, his mind would break first. He had to find a trigger point, activate it somehow, and force the ending time of this legend to arrive early. If he could use that clock to bring forward something that was supposed to happen 3 days later, then the legend would end. So what actually happened in the convenience store after 3 days? Was it putting out stock that was only supposed to arrive 3 days later? No, that was still too complicated. He needed something more direct. Soon, Kim Sol-eum thought of something else. Expiration dates. Once a convenience store finds expired food, it throws it away. And when a product is close to expiring, it is usually discarded within 3 days. So Kim Sol-eum found a lunchbox in the fridge that had not expired yet. This time, he had really hit the jackpot. If his plan worked, he would be able to escape very soon. However, the ghost had not appeared again. It seemed to be deliberately messing with him. Did it think this was fun? Since the ghost was not showing up for now, Kim Sol-eum could finally relax a little. Most cash register systems had a date and time setting, so he decided to change it to 3 days later. He set the system time to April 7th at 11:59 p.m. Soon, a notification appeared on the screen. Modification complete. Kim Sol-eum could not help smiling. He had succeeded. Then an expiration alert popped up. All products are about to expire. Sure enough, the urban legend heard the notification too. Its eyes locked tightly onto Kim Sol-eum, but by then, Kim Sol-eum had already hidden, so it did not find him right away. However, the direction it was running in was exactly where Kim Sol-eum was hiding. In the next second, it charged straight toward him. Kim Sol-eum immediately registered the lunchbox in his hands, his heart racing with urgency. A message appeared on the screen. Register expired item. Without hesitation, Kim Sol-eum selected yes. After he pressed the button, a new notification appeared. Expired item registered. At that moment, water from the urban legend dripped right in front of Kim Sol-eum. And the moment that drop of water fell, light suddenly appeared before his eyes, and the entire convenience store lit up. A receipt printed out from the machine. He could not believe it had actually worked. Kim Sol-eum knew it. People really did need light to survive. His heart finally calmed down. Just as he was about to leave, the cash register drawer suddenly opened by itself, revealing a surprising amount of cash. Here was a fun fact. After completing this urban legend, it actually rewarded cash. Thinking about that, Kim Sol-eum found it kind of funny. But could he really take this money with him? Meanwhile, on the other side, Park Min-sung and Irene were preparing to organize some paperwork, while Kim Sol-eum was still inside the urban legend. But writing those reports was giving both of them a headache. Just then, Irene noticed something was wrong, because Kim Sol-eum had already come out of the urban legend. When the two of them saw him, they froze. It had barely been any time at all, yet he was already out. Kim Sol-eum said, "I have already filled the dream due collector." Park Min-sung still found it hard to believe. The minimum clear time given for this urban legend should have been 3 days. So how had Kim Sol-eum cleared it in just 1 hour? That was way too terrifying. Time went back to 1 hour earlier. At that moment, Team D's new member was trapped alone inside an urban legend. Irene was a little worried, but 3 days was already considered mild. Even if he stayed longer, there was food inside, so there probably would not be any major problem. Throwing a rookie into a darkness alone was Team D's signature entrance trial. Of course, quite a few new employees had quit because of it. Thanks to them, Team D had been scolded by their supervisor many times. But why did they still insist on doing this entrance trial? Because if someone could not even handle this much, they should leave early, before they ended up losing their life. Watching a coworker fall, especially watching a rookie from their own team disappear like that, was honestly painful for them too. After all, that was the last thing they wanted to see. But the rookie in front of them this time seemed a little special. Irene felt something was off, and Park Min-sung felt the same way. Wasn't this guy a little too calm? Under normal circumstances, a rookie should not react like this. Most rookies panicked the moment they learned what Team D actually did. But Kim So-lim had not even blinked. So this guy really was fearless. The boss would definitely like him. If you were a coward, working in a department that studied urban legends every day would be a real problem. But then again, a true coward would never survive the probation period in the first place. What they never expected was that a real coward had actually wandered in. Even the two of them had to admit in their hearts that this rookie was actually pretty impressive. However, that kid had not written down a single note. Since this was his first job, he probably still did not understand the rules. Park Min-sung planned to teach him properly later. At the very least, recording information was a basic skill. When someone taught you something, you had to write it down so you could review it later and truly understand it. Exactly. It was not like he already knew all that information. But in reality, Kim So-lim did already know, because he knew every plotline here. Park Min-sung guessed that the rookie would need at least 3 days to come out, so they still had plenty of time. But right then, his notebook suddenly trembled. When he opened it, Park Min-sung froze on the spot. The notebook had actually spat Kim So-lim out, and the first thing Kim So-lim said after coming out was, "I have already cleared it." Both of them were shocked. A horror story that should have taken at least 3 days had been cleared by a rookie in under an hour. But while Kim So-lim looked calm on the surface, his heart was pounding like crazy. That convenience store was supposed to be a 3-day ghost story. The two of them were confused. If 3 days had not passed yet, how had he gotten out? Kim So-lim answered, "I cleared it early. Wasn't it simple? Since there was a time limit, there had to be a key event inside the ghost story that determined whether time had passed. If I could trigger the 3rd-day event early, the ghost story would end early as well. So by using the expiration dates to dispose of the food, I successfully cleared it before the 3 days were up." The two instantly understood. This guy was a genius. Team D had really picked up a treasure this time, and they absolutely could not let him quit. They had to keep him happy and make sure he stayed at work. That way, they could dump all the hard jobs on him later. That was what both of them were thinking. So, they started flattering Kim So-lim. Park Min-sung laughed and said, "Rookie, when you make it big, don't forget about me." Irene also felt that Kim So-lim would probably surpass her rank before long. Kim So-lim quickly explained, "Don't misunderstand, I only rushed out because I was terrified." But judging from his expression, he did not look scared at all. The two of them did not believe him for a second. Irene did not care about that. As long as he cleared it, that was enough. What she cared about was how much he had earned this time. Kim So-lim said, "I received 10 million won. They told him, after clearing it, that entire 10 million won belongs to you. The company usually takes half, but since you worked hard this time, you can keep all the cash. We will use our senior experience to handle the paperwork, so you don't need to worry about anything else. There is no need to refuse." What they did not know was that Kim So-lim had already pocketed another 10 million won, and his conscience was starting to bother him a little. Irene had no idea he had hidden that money. She simply told him to keep working hard. The important part is coming next. Park Min-sung laughed. "It is time to take care of that thing." Kim So-lim was confused. "What thing?" Park Min-sung answered, "The point-earning guide for the employee benefits store." Then he helped Kim So-lim register on the back end. Once the review passed, the company would issue the points. Clearing an F-rank solo mission would earn 100 points. So Kim So-lim decided to see what he could buy with 100 points. He moved the mouse and started browsing the store. Soon, he saw a robot vacuum. He realized there were far more items here than he had expected. Then he got curious and checked how many points a wish voucher required. When he opened it, he saw that it cost a massive 500,000 points. Kim So-lim was instantly speechless. How long would it even take to save that much? If he wanted to earn more points, he would have to enter higher-level darknesses. If 3 people entered together, each person would receive around 3,000 points on average. The problem was that a level 1 darkness had only a 2% survival rate. If Kim So-lim rushed in carelessly, he would definitely die. Just then, Park Min-sung walked over. "Rookie, did you register your points properly?" But Kim So-lim was still feeling depressed. so he casually asked what the little doll on the desk was. Park Min-song explained that it was the team leader's desk, and the doll was basically his signature item. The team leader often worked outside the office, so as long as they did not break the monitor, it was usually fine. As expected, this was a company that extracted potions from ghost stories. Trying to understand this place with common sense was a mistake in itself. Kim Sol-um had to find a way to survive, but ordinary methods were far too difficult, so it looked like he needed to take a shortcut. Soon, he found a sticky note with absolutely no sense of security. Kim Sol-um decided to use the account on it to log into the employee benefits store, but the password did not match. Still, that was within his expectations, because registration required the password to include an uppercase letter. All he had to do was capitalize the first letter of the password on the sticky note and enter it again. Soon, Kim Sol-eum successfully logged in. He silently cheered to himself. Amazing, he had actually pulled it off. Inside Daydream Company, there was an advertisement that only managers and above could see. It was called the Alien Store. Among the aliens that appeared in the Dark Exploration log, some sold items to Earthlings. Their communication was awkward and their products were dangerous, but the items were surprisingly useful. With Daydream Company employees as their main customers, they hid illegal link ads across the network. The access method was simple. He just had to click around randomly inside the employee benefits store. Then, after pressing the back button 5 times in a row, he could enter the hidden page. Finally, Kim Sol-eum successfully accessed the alien store. The page was a chaotic mess, and a message popped up. Bored at work? Click here if you want to get stronger. Beside it was a little green hand. This interface was absolute trash. It looked completely unreliable. When clearing in darkness, if employees followed the company manual exactly, most of the additional profits would be handed over to the company. In other words, the company stole another half. And for a rookie's first assigned darkness, the profits were taken entirely. Damn it, this company really was shamelessly greedy. To be safe, Kim Sol-eum figured he should save the link first and log in again after going home. He was about to pick up his notebook, but then his hand suddenly paused. Maybe he could manually enter the address and save it directly on his phone. Sure enough, after entering it, the store page opened on his phone as well. But this store interface was way too messy. The page said, Space Mall Shopping, cool products from outer space. Click to view. The interface looked incredibly tacky, but Kim Sol-eum could not let his guard down just because it looked tacky. So he opened the item list. There were many things inside, such as walkie-talkies, button sets, and silver coins. Kim Sol-eum silently praised it to himself. This was pretty good. He recognized more than half of the items. Aside from the picnic set and the walkie-talkies, he did not know what the other two were. The problem was that these items were already beyond his budget. So Kim Sol-eum decided to use the money he had earned from the convenience store to buy the items he needed most. Soon, the store transferred funds out of his account. With a whoosh, a flash of white light appeared before his eyes, a passage opened above his head, and the items he had purchased appeared directly in his hands. The label read, Universe Shopping Center. Rocket fast delivery, arriving in 3 seconds. The slogan was painfully lame, but the delivery speed was honestly impressive. The items Kim Sol-eum chose were Alice's picnic set and a silver coin snake. First was Alice's picnic set. It could temporarily alter the effect of an item. The drink doubled the item's effect, while the cookie cut it in half. Carrying 1 or 2 around should be pretty useful. As for the silver coin snake, that was different. Kim Sol-eum had bought it on impulse after seeing the original price. In other words, it was an investment. This world had all kinds of ghost story currencies, and they could be exchanged for cash through certain forces. If he bought them at a discount and later exchanged them at full value, he would make his money back someday. Kim Sol-eum kept praying silently to himself. This was not gambling. This was not a daydream. This was an extremely calm and rational decision. As for why he did not buy the remaining items, it was because he simply could not use them. Vampire cutlery was a weapon meant to directly fight ghosts, but if Kim Sol-eum had to face a ghost head-on, he would probably die on the spot. Then again, could someone really extract dream essence from a ghost? The walkie-talkies were the same. Convincing his boss to carry one around would be way too awkward. And if his boss asked where it came from, that would be even more troublesome. Kim Sol-eum could not exactly say that he had logged in with his boss's account and bought it. In the end, he reached a conclusion. These items were the best choices for him right now. Now, Kim Sol-eum had 4 items in his backpack. It felt kind of new to say this, but buying fictional items in reality actually felt pretty nice. The only downside was that fictional ghosts came included for free. How annoying. In the blink of an eye, it was already afternoon, and Kim So-lum was about to enter an Earth rank darkness today. His 2 seniors said it was similar to an entry-level darkness, so there should not be any major problem. After all, he had cleared one without knowing anything before. Now that he had a manual, there was no reason he could not do it. Kim So-lum could not argue with them, so he had no choice but to try. Before entering, he had to read through the manual first. His 2 seniors told him that as long as he memorized it thoroughly, nothing should go wrong. If he could not remember everything, Park Min-sung could also give him a paper manual, so he could take notes. Kim So-lum said, "There is no need. I have already memorized everything." That made both of them freeze. If you already memorized it, then why are you not taking notes? Kim So-lum had no interest in taking notes. Everything was already in his head. Please call me the King of Memory. Come to think of it, he still had not met Team D's leader yet. His 2 seniors said the leader would arrive in the afternoon, so he should be able to meet him soon. But in the end, the team leader had something to handle and could not come. With no other choice, the 3 of them had to enter by themselves. It was the end of the month, and the rookie had only arrived yesterday, but he had performed well so far, so there should not be any problem. Irene asked Kim So-lum again, "Did you really memorize everything?" Before Kim So-lum could answer, Park Min-sung spoke for him. He memorized that thick manual, so this little bit should be a piece of cake for him. Only then did Irene say, "Let's enter by ourselves today. We don't need the team leader." But she did not hear the sound of Kim So-lum's heart breaking. Was this the punishment for secretly pocketing 20 million won? Now there was one major problem. Kim So-lum had never read about this darkness in the novel. Of course, he had expected to eventually encounter ghost stories he did not know, but he had not expected it to happen this soon. The company's darkness list was clearly much larger than he had imagined. The entry method was simple. They only had to write their names in the sender field. The 3 of them each wrote down their names. The instant their pen tips lifted, the papers flew straight into the darkness. There seemed to be a story written on them, but at this point, reading it or not no longer mattered. When Kim So-lum opened his eyes again, they had arrived on a stage. Irene and Park Min-sung were standing behind him. Kim So-lum was sitting at the very front, but he had no idea what was going on. In the next second, DJ music suddenly started playing. Welcome to the quiz segment. But right then, another group of quiz participants was teleported in, and because of their arrival, the game's difficulty instantly increased by 3 levels. In this quiz, anyone could be punished, because the quiz live stream had completely gone out of control. At that moment, they were facing a new ghost story game called Tuesday Quiz Show. The host seemed to know this was their first time facing a live stream, so his tone sounded unusually friendly. He reminded everyone to smile through everything, no matter what happened. But this host looked strange, no matter how you looked at him, because he had a television for a head. In the next second, the lights suddenly came on, and the host shouted toward the crowd below, "Let us hear you cheer. Your applause is the very reason this show exists." Kim So-lum relaxed slightly. This place was not as scary as he had imagined. At least for now, there were no ghosts. In a way, the host with the TV mask had really done him a huge favor. The set was also pretty decent. It looked a little old-fashioned, but overall, it was just an ordinary audience studio, like some kind of retro talk show. But right then, Kim So-lum suddenly froze, because something came to mind. A retro talk show, a quiz segment, and contestants who already knew the answers in advance. The moment he thought of that, cold sweat ran down Kim So-lum's back. At the same time, the host snapped his fingers. Now then, let us get straight to the main event. 3 seconds to start. This ghost story had appeared in the dark exploration log. 2 seconds to start. Kim So-lum's 2 seniors were still smiling cluelessly, completely unaware that danger had already arrived. This was the starting point of the infamous rating adjustment disaster. The disaster that later buried countless people in darkness. Its name was Gedakness. 1 second to start. Kim So-lum snapped back to his senses. The tragedy began with a darkness origin themed after a 2010s talk show, and its initial rating had only been D rank. And now, their program officially began filming. The host faced the camera and said, "Good evening, dear viewers. You are now watching the Tuesday Quiz Show. I am sure you have all been waiting for Tuesday to arrive, and now, your wait is over. This is a talk show that can only be entered on Tuesdays, because only on this day can everyone meet these adorable new faces. Since the very first episode, they have entered the exploration segment with complete answer sheets, all for the sake of achieving their 3rd consecutive win. As of episode 110, 99 explorations have been completed without casualties. The prize will be awarded during the 100th exploration. Now then, let us introduce our contestants. This blonde young man is called Badger, and this elegant lady is called Peregrine Falcon. The one on the far end is Mr. Dumb Roe Deer. Will our contestants continue their winning streak this week? Please stay tuned. The Tuesday quiz show officially begins now. At that moment, Kim Solum was still panicking inside, completely unaffected by the lively atmosphere around him. Episode 110 meant this was actually the 99th exploration. Kim Solum looked back at his two seniors. His two seniors nodded at him, signaling that he could relax. They seemed pretty calm, so it should be fine for now. After all, the disaster happened exactly on the 100th exploration, so the 99th should theoretically be safe. But Kim Solum absolutely could not let his guard down, or he could lose his life at any moment. The rule here was that any act of disrespect toward the show would result in removal, and anyone who interfered with the live stream would be incinerated. And this quiz show was being broadcast live to an audience. That meant any action that disrupted the show's planned flow could be the same as suicide. The host said, "Now then, contestants, are the three of you ready?" However, Mr. Dumb Roe Deer seems a little nervous. Kim Solum replied, "This is my first time on a quiz show, so it is normal for me to be nervous." The host raised one finger and signaled for silence. "Then, let us start with something simple. Which of the following is not a component of the human body? 1. Water. 2. Iron. 3. Salt. 4. Soil." Kim Solum chose 4. Correct. The host smiled and said, "You are truly clever." Next, it was Mr. Badger's turn to answer, and without a doubt, he got it right too. Peregrine Falcon also answered correctly. Soon, another question came up, and Kim Solum deliberately put on a troubled expression. The host immediately got excited. "Everyone, let us cheer him on." Kim Solum chose the third answer, strangulation. This question was also answered correctly. In truth, Kim Solum had known the answer from the start. He was simply trying his best to act along with the atmosphere. They answered several more questions after that, and every single one was correct. Even the host found it unbelievable. Our contestants are unstoppable. They have answered every question correctly. In the blink of an eye, we have reached the final question of this episode. Will they conquer this final question as well? Everyone take a guess. Mr. Dumb Roe Deer, are you ready? Kim Solum answered, "I am ready." Then let us begin. At what percentage of blood loss does a person die? The options are 40, 45, 50, and 55. Kim Solum answered without hesitation, the first one. Then he immediately chose the second one and the third one as well. The host froze and asked, "Why did you select so many answers at once?" Kim Solum replied, "All three answers are correct. Generally speaking, once a person loses around 30 to 40% of their blood, their life is already in danger. So if they lose even more, they would obviously die as well." In an instant, everyone turned to look at Kim Solum. What a bold answer. The host asked, "Are you sure you do not want to change your answer?" The staff were already panicking, terrified that something would go wrong with the live stream. But Kim Solum said, "No, I stand by my answer." Then the staff came over to report the correct answer. The answer originally set by the question writer was actually option 1. However, Mr. Dumb Roe Deer's answer is far more memorable. So the production team's final decision is that it is a perfect answer. This meant they had answered every question correctly. Kim Solum was truly grateful that he had survived this far. This week's Tuesday quiz show ended successfully. But in the end, only one contestant could receive the MVP award. His two seniors were so bored that they could not help yawning, but they carefully avoided the camera. And this time, the MVP was Kim Solum. The host announced loudly, "Congratulations to Mr. Dumb Roe Deer for winning this episode's MVP." Thunderous applause erupted from the audience, and then Kim Solum received a box. Kim Solum thanked the host, but he was confused inside. Why was he the MVP? Still, now was not the time to worry about that. As long as the camera turned off, they could return. This was only the 99th exploration, so nothing should go wrong. The host was also getting ready to wave goodbye to everyone. Tomorrow, we will welcome an even more wonderful guest. In the next second, his body began to flicker. And it was not just the host. Kim Solum and the others were flickering too. Once it ended, they would be able to return. At this point, Kim Solum thought nothing else should go wrong. But right then, a spotlight suddenly shone on a certain spot. Everyone was confused. Why had the lights turned on by themselves? In the center of the stage, two more girls had suddenly appeared. And on Kim Solum's right, a boy had appeared as well. The host's expression instantly darkened. The live stream had suddenly gone out of control, and this broadcast had officially become the 100th exploration. The people who had just entered had no idea things would turn out like this either. Everyone realized that something was wrong. Why had they appeared here? Kim So-loom and the others had not even left yet, and this was exactly what Kim So-loom had feared most. The 99th exploration had turned into the 100th, but he could not understand why these people had appeared in the same ghost story as them. From the looks of it, even those people themselves had no idea what was happening. However, the biggest problem was that the quiz segment had now been interrupted, which meant the latecomers would be incinerated. In the next second, flames erupted beneath their platforms. Park Min-sung immediately realized something was wrong. But before he could move, the host interrupted him. This is a special preview of next Tuesday's contestants. Kim So-loom looked at the charred bodies and forced himself to suppress the nausea in his chest. He absolutely could not react because the cameras were still rolling. If the host decided he had disrupted the live stream, he might be burned to death too. Any act of disrespect toward the show would result in immediate removal. Kim So-loom's fingers were trembling, but his mind moved fast. He immediately held the box toward the camera and said, "Who will become the next MVP to follow in my footsteps? Stay tuned next week." Confetti cannons immediately went off. The host also applauded Kim So-loom's quick reaction. Then he continued, "Although it is a shame, that will be all for today. Tomorrow, we will bring you an even more exciting program." The host came over to Kim So-loom and played along with the performance. Finally, he smiled at the camera, and this quiz segment came to a successful end. With a snap, the camera finally turned off. The host let out a long sigh. They had nearly ruined the live stream, but thankfully, everything had gone smoothly in the end. The staff stepped forward and began cleaning up the ashes left behind by the incineration. The host praised Kim So-loom, saying his reaction speed was truly extraordinary. "Are you interested in becoming a regular guest here?" Kim So-loom replied, "I already have a job." The host found that regrettable, but he did not force him. Then he continued, "I believe they did not interrupt the live stream on purpose, so do not be too discouraged. The three of you will have a chance to take part soon enough." Just then, a staff member leaned close to the host and whispered something into his ear. The host's expression instantly froze. Then he said awkwardly, "This is a little difficult to announce, but I have decided to tell everyone. Our show has just been cancelled. To be more precise, the Tuesday quiz show has been cancelled, and the quiz segment has been replaced. Of course, that does not mean everything is over. We do have good news as well." He planned to invite everyone present to participate in the news segment. Kim So-loom's heart sank. At this rate, the exploration record might really turn into the 100th one. Tuesday quiz show settlement report. Daydream Company. The studio was the same as in the previous episodes, but the name of the program had changed. The host explained to the confused employees that the Tuesday quiz show had been cancelled. Apparently, because one participant had answered correctly 99 times in a row, the punishments had become meaningless. Since the segment was no longer exciting enough, it had been penalized. However, the next news segment would be a little different. This program would be pre-recorded, so everyone did not need to be so nervous. The host said that although he was only a supporting character, he would do his best to make the segment spectacular. Irene immediately said, "We already participated, so we'll be leaving now." But filming was not over yet, and the host had no intention of letting them leave. He said, "The precautions should have been written on the registration postcard. If you leave halfway through, it will put the production team in a difficult position. Is there really no way to be flexible?" Kim So-loom said firmly, "No. We never agreed to participate in back-to-back live streams. Anyone can make a mistake during a live stream. I think we need some time to prepare, so we'll be leaving for today." He had to stop this. No matter what, Kim So-loom needed to find an excuse to get out of here. But the host ignored him completely. The production team was already ready to film, so you cannot leave. Please take your seats first. Kim So-loom cursed that damn TV head in his heart. Clearly, this guy had never planned to communicate with him in the first place. The 3-second countdown began, and filming officially started. Hello, dear viewers. The joy of Tuesday, the passion of Tuesday. Right now, you are watching the newest segment of our talk show. Please do not mourn the end of the Tuesday quiz show, because today, we have prepared an even more evolved quiz show. Then, a massive monster appeared behind the host. Everyone froze in shock when they saw it. This time, they were truly screwed. The host introduced the new segment. Its name was Tuesday Choir. At that moment, the monster was giving off a demonic presence, and the guest for this episode was a magnificent Melody Butcher. But then, the butcher's flashy equipment suddenly froze for a moment. The host had no choice but to say, Please wait a moment. After a short pause, the butcher's equipment was finally ready. Kim Sol looked up and saw plates hovering in the air one after another. The host said excitedly, "Then let us give the honor of the first attempt to these fresh new faces." Then the host turned toward one of the girls and began asking a question. Which of the following creatures has the longest lifespan? The options are pig, human, rabbit, and flea. The host walked toward her step by step, radiating overwhelming pressure. The girl trembled in fear and immediately chose option 2, human. And her answer was indeed correct. But in the next second, her head flew straight toward one of the silver discs in the air. Only a headless body was left standing in place. The sacrificial conductor was made up of 1 conductor and 3 silver discs he summoned. The first choir member was now in position. The heads of talk show participants would be placed on the silver discs, and the selection method depended on that day's broadcast segment. The highest recorded number of heads was 7. Just 1 head was enough to cause mild headaches, anxiety, and sudden emotional swings. One of the women was so terrified that she screamed. Her friend had died in such a horrifying way, and her own mind was already on the verge of collapse. The host casually burned her to ashes with a burst of fire. Then he turned toward the final new face. "Are you ready?" The man broke down and said, "I don't know the answer. I would rather be punished than end up like that." In the next second, he was eliminated on the spot. Kim Solem's 2 seniors froze as they watched, alarms screaming in their heads. Only a few minutes had passed, and 3 people were already dead. The punishment system had completely changed. Getting the answer wrong meant immediate elimination. But getting it right meant your head would be sent onto a silver disc, then dragged into a deeper story to become an evil spirit. Suddenly, Kim Sol remembered something he had been ignoring all this time. Last time, his name had never appeared in the dark exploration log. At that moment, the host turned his head toward them. "Now this is a familiar face. It is your turn to answer." And the person called on this time was Kim Sol-um's senior, Park Min-sung. The host told Park Min-sung to answer the question. Thinking about how the others had died, Kim Sol-um's heart filled with panic. Was he going to end up just like them? Would his head be cut off? Or would the TV-headed host burn him alive? A coward like him had no chance of surviving here. It felt like only death was waiting for him. Sooner or later, he would die here just like the others. But he absolutely could not give up now. He had to grab onto the last chance to survive. This feeling was no longer just fear. It was the overwhelming shock of watching a natural disaster descend right before his eyes. This was nothing short of a catastrophe. But there was still a way out. Kim Sol-um was not completely unable to survive because he still had the phone cheat that knew the novel's plot. At that moment, Park Min-sung was ready to answer the question. The host noticed that Park Min-sung had not responded yet. Then Park Min-sung gave a faint smile. "All right, I will answer now. But before that, may I say one thing first?" The host replied, "Of course." Park Min-sung seemed to have already prepared himself to die. He said he had one final request. A family member of his was in the hospital, and if possible, he hoped someone would take care of them after the show ended. Those words almost moved the host to tears, but when it was time to answer a question, the question still had to be answered. Irene was gritting her teeth in anger. This was a complete dead end. Whether they answered correctly or incorrectly, they would die. But right then, Kim Sol-um suddenly interrupted them. "Mr. Host." Park Min-sung was shocked. He could not understand why Kim Sol-um would step in and interrupt at a time like this. The host walked straight over to Kim Sol-um and asked, "Do you have something to say, Mr. Dumro dear?" Kim Sol-um said, "I'm sorry, but I feel extremely dizzy right now. Could I rest for a moment?" As he said that, his hand was already resting on the host's shoulder, and he placed a smile sticker on the host's head. This item was honestly absurdly powerful. Just to prevent anything from going wrong, Kim Sol-um stuck 3 of them on him in a row. The host muttered, "That is rather troublesome." Then he snapped his fingers. "In that case, let us pause for now. We will take a 30-minute break." Everyone was stunned. Kim Sol-um had actually interrupted the host's schedule, and he had not been burned to ashes. Kim Sol-um's heart was pounding like crazy. If this had been a live stream, he might have died on the spot. Thankfully, this was only a pre-recorded show, and pre-recorded shows could be paused. As for the smile sticker he had just used, once it was attached to a target, that target would feel goodwill toward him. Its effect was second only to Alice's picnic set. Whether it would work on the host had been a gamble, but judging from the result, it was not completely useless. The host laughed. My apologies, I need to adjust my antenna. Please take Mr. Dumb Rodeer to the waiting room and get him some water while you are at it. Kim Solem's face looked terrible. He had successfully delayed things by 30 minutes, but that was all it was. Just 30 minutes. Once the break ended, the recording would resume. This time was incredibly precious. It was time he had bought with his item. Now, he had to come up with a plan inside the waiting room. As he left, Irene grabbed him and confirmed that he was going alone. Her eyes looked complicated. Soon, Kim Sol-um arrived at the waiting room, and by then, he was already close to collapsing. Even though he had bought some time, it was only 30 minutes, barely enough to catch his breath. But he had to do something during this window. First, the thing Irene had secretly slipped him earlier was a button. What was this button supposed to do? Would something appear if he pressed it? So Kim Solium tried pressing it. With a beep, he heard a dialing tone. Then a voice seemed to come from the other side. "Hello, this is Lee Jae-hun." The person speaking was a silver-haired man. Kim Sol-um understood immediately. So this button was a communicator, something like a phone. His expression filled with shock. "Are you the boss of Team D?" The man replied, "Yes." But Kim Sol-um had no time for small talk. "I'm the new member of Team D. I need to report an emergency. In 30 minutes, everyone in Team D will die. Whether you believe me or not, I'm going to tell you what's happening right now." After hearing him out, Lee Jae-hyun simply said, "I understand." Kim Sol-em spent 5 minutes explaining the current situation. If things continued like this, the moment the break ended, all of them would die. Lee Jae-hyun said he understood, but he needed Kim Sol-em to stall for another 30 minutes. To Kim Sol-em, that was almost impossible because he had already run out of options. But from Lee Jae-hun's tone, he sounded strangely calm. His teammates were on the verge of death, yet he was still this composed. So Kim Sol-em asked him, "If I can buy another 30 minutes, can the situation really change?" Lee Jae-hun answered calmly again, "Yes. From now on, once 55 minutes have passed, we can apply for weapons and entry equipment with permission from the security team. Even if we simplify every procedure, it will still take around 40 minutes. On top of that, entering the corresponding darkness area will take another 20 minutes. We have to complete that process to have even the slightest chance of saving Team D and everyone inside." Once he entered the darkness through special equipment, he could suppress an A-rank anomaly by himself. Kim Sol-um could not help doubting it. Why did that sound so unreliable? But if Lee Jae-hyun could really do that, then he had to be an important named character. And if he was one of the characters Kim Sol-um knew, then there was still hope. The only problem was whether Kim Sol-eum could stall for another 30 minutes. So Kim Sol-em asked, "Team leader, what kind of mask do you wear?" The moment he asked that question, countless possibilities opened up. Soon, 30 minutes passed, and the pre-recorded show resumed. Kim Sol-em returned to the set. "Thank you for your concern, and thank you for giving me 30 minutes to rest." The host smiled and said, "No need to thank me. I have always taken good care of Mr. Dumb Rodeer." Kim Sol-em honestly did not expect this TV head to sound so friendly. The smile stickers effect had to still be active. The plan was now fully in place, and he could not ask for anything more. Meanwhile, his two seniors looked completely pale. Irene especially did not want to watch her friend die. Kim Sol-em was working to stop all of this, so he had to stall for another 30 minutes. "Mr. Host, there's something I want to tell you." To buy time, Kim Sol-em decided to chat with the host. First, he needed to get the host on his side. Otherwise, this plan would never work. So Kim Sol-em started flattering him like crazy. "Mr. Host, your passion and dedication to the show are truly admirable. From a visual standpoint, you have managed this program beautifully, and the content is incredibly engaging." In the face of death, Kim Sol-em's flattery had completely lost all shame. But to his surprise, the host actually loved hearing it and really started chatting with him. Kim Sol-em hated saying these things. But to stall for time, he had no other choice. He continued, "The band's involvement has clearly been reduced, and the punishment segment is gone too. You even use pre-recorded applause instead of real audience reactions. This no longer feels like the talk show I used to know." The waiting room had once been the host's private space, and its walls were covered with posters from that talk show. During the live stream, those posters could interact with the audience in real time. So this current format felt like the whole show had been reset just to save money. But was the reason for this major change that guest? There was a strong possibility. The host hated the current format of the show. After Kim Sol-em said all of this, the host's mood seemed to worsen. He said, coldly, "That is not something a contestant should be worrying about. Don't you think what you're saying is a little pointless?" But Kim Solium had no other option, so he forced himself to keep flattering him. The host finally responded, "The entertainment industry is cruel. If the audience prefers this format, then recognizing that reality and adapting quickly is also part of being a performer." Kim Solium immediately said, "But I liked your show more, Mr. Host. I genuinely mean that." The Tuesday quiz show interacted with every viewer in real time, and the story it presented felt like it had truly come alive. At least as a viewer, I preferred the old version. Earlier, I was simply swept up by the live stream atmosphere and got emotional for a moment. The host seems to be getting impatient. He no longer wanted to keep chatting with Kim Solium, so he said, "There are only 60 seconds left before filming resumes." Everyone immediately returned to their positions. Kim Solium felt that he had already done everything he could. This was his absolute limit. Soon, the countdown reached the final second, and the 100th quiz program officially resumed recording. Time went back to 30 minutes earlier. Kim Solium had asked Lee Jae-hun what animal his mask was. Lee Jae-hun answered, "It is a lizard." Back at the scene, Park Min-sung was once again facing the host's question. But his expression looked calm, as if he had already accepted his own death. At that moment, Kim Solium suddenly called out to him, because he already knew what Park Min-sung was planning to answer. Park Min-sung was probably going to say, "I don't know." After all, compared to becoming a talking instrument head that repeated the same words forever, being burned to ash might actually be better. Kim Solium told him, "Answer properly. Since this is a quiz segment, you have to give a real answer." Kim Solium could only pray that Park Min-sung would buy a little more time. It was still too early to give up. At that moment, Park Min-sung had only 3 seconds left to answer. In the end, Park Min-sung chose to trust Kim Solium. His answer was option 4, burning. And of course, the answer was correct. The moment the host finished speaking, the butcher behind him began swinging its arms, preparing to turn Park Min-sung into an instrument. But at that moment, a slip of paper slowly drifted down, and that paper was Kim Solium's final weapon. Lee Jae-hyun could enter the urban legend through special equipment. However, the passage created by that device could only send small objects through. But for Kim Solium, that was enough. Lee Jae-hyun had told him, "Throw it as hard as you possibly can." In the next second, the slip of paper split down the middle and began giving off a green light. Then, beams of light descended from the ring of light, forming what looked like a passage. And that beam of light happened to block the butcher's movement. At the same time, it knocked the disc out of the butcher's hand. A ticking sound kept echoing through the air. What fell to the ground was a bent and twisted battery, just as Kim Solium had expected. He had a feeling that if it was a battery, it might actually work. A lizard was still a lizard. Even when trapped inside a ghost story, physical exorcism still worked. Lee Jae-hyun's nickname was Lizard. He was Team D's leader and one of the few combat experts in the field exploration team. In the files, he was usually recorded as a bizarre character who brute forced his way through ghost stories that normally required intelligence and creativity. Wasn't the reason he got into trouble because he was missing a few screws in the first place? Of course, directly attacking the conductor himself probably would not work, so Lee Jae-hyun targeted the conductor's instrument instead. If the conductor of an A-rank ghost story was stopped, then even the host would be unable to keep the show going. As long as Kim Solium could interrupt the rhythm of the program for even a single moment, he would succeed. At that moment, the host had not noticed anything wrong yet. He was still urging the butcher conductor to hurry up and turn Park Min-sung into an instrument for the choir. But after waiting for a while, the butcher did not react at all, and Park Min-sung was still standing there, unharmed. Then the butcher slowly raised its head. In the next second, a thick burst of blood mist sprayed from the conductor's torn nose. Kim Solium nearly froze in terror at the sight. He was a coward to begin with, and this scene almost made him faint on the spot. Even Irene beside him could barely handle it. She kept clutching her head as if something inside was being torn apart and crawling upward. The host seemed completely furious. Angry words kept flashing across his TV screen, as if this was the first time he had ever been this enraged. Then, he slowly raised his hand. "It seems you, wild boar, have no respect for this performance." In the next instant, a mass of flames swallowed the wild boar's body and burned it to ashes. The host said, "Entertainment should never rely on flashy guests. It must stay true to its roots. The thrill of witnessing something, the joy that keeps coming, the excitement of the unknown, and the anticipation of waiting for the next scene. You producers understand none of it. That is why you do not deserve to create a show." At that moment, the host's movements became extremely strange, and Kim Solium instantly noticed something. This guy was not normal. Why could a mere D-rank urban legend take down an A-rank ghost story? And not just take it down, but almost instantly kill it, burning an A-rank anomaly to ash. This was completely outside Kim So-lim's plan. This guy was powerful. Then the host handed over a handkerchief and wiped the blood from Kim So-lim's face. Thanks to you, I have found a whole new perspective. You truly have the talent of a creator. I want you to join us. When the time comes, you must accept my invitation. When Kim So-lim and the others finally came back to their senses, they were already back in the office, while Irene was still tightly covering her ears. His two seniors still seemed unable to process what had just happened. What exactly did you do during those 30 minutes of rest? But after surviving a disaster, all that remained was overwhelming relief. They had actually lived, and they had survived a situation that should have guaranteed death. At that moment, Kim So-lim had a dream dew in his hand, and it was glowing with golden light. This was completely different from the dream dew he had collected before. It was actually A-rank dream dew. Even Kim So-lim himself was shocked. He had only joined the company 2 days ago, yet he had already cleared an A-rank darkness. If he told anyone, they probably would not believe him. While Kim So-lim was completely exhausted after clearing 2 darknesses in a row, the rookies who had joined the company at the same time as him were also going through their own darknesses. After clearing a darkness, Go Young-eun earned 66 points and had cleared 2 F-rank darknesses. It had only been 3 days, so for a rookie, this should have been a pretty impressive result. She felt a little proud of herself. The seniors in Team R were not exactly friendly, but at least they had not made things too difficult for her. A single wish voucher required a massive 500,000 points. Saving that much might take a lifetime. But she was determined to do it anyway. She wondered whether the other rookies felt the same way. Come to think of it, she still had not contacted the other new employees from her batch. Go Young-in suddenly thought of Kim So-lim and wanted to chat with him. But in the next second, she froze, because messages kept popping up in her phone group chat. Did anyone see the notice that was just posted? Does anyone happen to know employee Kim So-lim? He actually participated in an S-rank cleanup. When Go Young-eun saw that message, her expression filled with disbelief. Image after image was sent into the group chat. There were even pictures of Kim So-lim and the others after they came out of the darkness. After this cleanup, Kim So-lim might actually get promoted. However, it seemed that other departments had blocked it. After escaping the Tuesday quiz show, Kim So-lim and the others were transferred to the infirmary and received emergency medication. Blood was flowing from their eyes, ears, noses, and mouths. Well, at least they were alive. At the time, Kim So-lim had genuinely thought he was going to die. Park Min-song thanked Kim So-lim. Being alive really is great. Anyway, thank you for bringing me out. Then he prepared a thank you gift for Kim So-lim, telling him he could eat whatever he wanted. To be honest, this was all thanks to the dark exploration log. Irene still felt a little unconvinced. We are not useless seniors. We only let our guard down because the mission was marked as D rank. But honestly, that excuse did not hold up very well. It seemed Irene's fighting spirit had been stirred up, and she was ready to prove herself in the next darkness. But what Kim So-lim wanted was to never have another next darkness at all. This incident could be called completely unprecedented. As for how the higher-ups would report it, he asked around, but no one knew. To be honest, Kim So-lim sincerely hoped the team leader would take this matter more seriously. But Lee Jae-hyun was simply that kind of person. Just then, Park Min-song's phone received a text. Apparently the team leader's meeting had ended, and the team leader was on his way over. It looked like Kim So-lim was finally about to see his true face. Team leader Lee Jae-hyun was one of the most famous characters in the novel, and the person responsible for that legendary AAA battery move during the Tuesday quiz show. His employee codename was Lizard. Soon, they heard a knock at the door. It seemed he had finally arrived. What would Lizard's true identity look like? The moment Kim So-lim thought of that question, he saw a beautiful lizard. The sight nearly scared Kim So-lim stupid. At this point, he might as well be scared to death, since he was bound to die of fright sooner or later. What kind of team leader looked like this? But everyone else seemed perfectly friendly. The rookie has been waiting here for you for a long time. Only then did Kim So-lim calm down a little. The team leader could not really be a lizard. He had to be mentally shaken by the host. His brain had probably mistaken the man's mask for a lizard head. Soon, Kim So-lim noticed a white mask strapped to Lee Jae-hyun's leg. So that mask had been hanging at his waist the entire time. Irene said to Kim So-lim, "Dumro dear, hurry up and greet the team leader." But right then, Lee Jae-hyun suddenly said to him, "Can you see me?" The moment Kim Sol-eum heard that, his expression stiffened, and he froze in place. Yes, he could see him. But in this emergency, he could only improvise. "My eyes are not injured, and my vision is perfectly normal." Those words made a trace of surprise flash through Lee Jae-hyun's eyes. Then he clasped his hands behind his back and said, "I understand. Good." It seemed Kim Sol-eum had acted naturally enough. Judging from the atmosphere, everyone else was probably seeing a completely normal human face. For some reason, only Kim Sol-eum saw him as a reptile. But Kim Sol-eum felt he absolutely could not show it, even though he had no idea what would happen if he exposed it. Then Lee Jae-hyun said to everyone, "Now let us get back to the main issue. I will explain the final conclusion regarding this incident. First, the starting point of this incident was that another team suddenly entered. But the question is, why did they enter the same ghost story? Clearly, the Tuesday quiz show had been scheduled twice due to an administrator's mistake. Team D and the other team began filling out their postcards at roughly the same time, but the other team left midway, creating a time gap of about 50 minutes. They probably stopped halfway to buy coffee for their rookie. After all, that team is famous for being unusually considerate toward its members. Since there was no other group available to cross-check the incident, and because the initial survival rate was relatively high, there was no conclusive proof that this darkness deserved an A-rank rating. Therefore, the request to reclassify the Tuesday quiz show as A-rank was rejected. The two seniors were both shocked. This is obviously A-rank difficulty. This result made Irene furious. She wanted to go over there and have a serious talk with them herself. They had clearly collected all the A-rank dream due. So was this really only going to count as a D-rank achievement? Lee Jae-hyun said, "No. Considering the special circumstances of this exploration and the fact that its actual difficulty was equivalent to an A-rank operation, extra compensation has already been approved." In other words, they were being told to take the money and stop complaining. For the Tuesday quiz show only, an additional reward equivalent to an A-rank clearance would be issued, so each participant would receive 30,000 points. When everyone heard 30,000 points, they froze. And for Mr. Dronzer, who had contributed the most to the clearance, the company would give an additional 10,000 points, bringing his total to 40,000. This news left them completely stunned. Irene could almost hear her resignation date moving 3 years closer. "But the awkward part is that points cannot be transferred," she said. "Honestly, you basically handled everything by yourself." Kim Sol-eum said, "It is fine. Not having an official A-rank clearance record is actually better. A lightning-fast promotion would only get me assigned to even more terrifying ghost stories." This was a world where he could die at any moment, so he had to be careful, then more careful, then even more careful. As for the points the others received, honestly, even if they could transfer them, he doubted they would actually give them to him. That line was probably just politeness. After that, they sat down at the computer desk and checked their points. These people had taken a job where death could happen at any moment, all just to save enough points for a wish voucher. Of course, they all had their own goals. In this place, points were basically life itself. Kim Sol-eum opened his account page. His total was 40,000 points. For comparison, one F-rank cleanup was only worth 1,000 points. And unlike before, this time it was a 5-digit reward and it was not split among the team members. In one shot, Kim Sol-eum had filled 8% of the progress needed for a wish voucher. At that moment, Irene looked at the team leader. "We actually came back alive and earned a huge pile of points." Kim Sol-eum did not quite understand what she meant. Irene asked the team leader, "Should we go do that thing?" Her expression looked strangely excited. Soon, everyone arrived at a barbecue restaurant. Kim Sol-eum wanted to show off his grilling skills, but they stopped him. A rookie was not allowed to take the tongs during his first team dinner. But they had no idea that Kim Sol-eum was not just being polite. Honestly, he just needed to look somewhere else, because staring at a lizard head the entire time was way too strange. Not to mention, the way Lee Jae-hyun ate was also weird. By now, Kim Sol-eum could confirm that the others were not seeing a lizard face. They were seeing a normal human face. Still, the atmosphere at dinner was actually pretty nice. There was alcohol and meat, and with drinks and barbecue easing the tension, Kim Sol-eum finally relaxed quite a bit. Before coming to this world, almost every meal he had eaten was for client entertainment. It had been a long time since he had eaten a quiet meal like this. Aside from all the damn ghosts, this place was not that bad. Then, the team leader said to Kim Sol-eum, "Mr. Dronzer, are you not planning to spend the 40,000 points you earned this time?" Kim Sol-eum answered, "I do not plan to spend them. I am going to save up for a wish voucher." The two seniors chuckled when they heard that. In truth, everyone was here for the wish voucher, but making eye contact with this team leader felt really strange. So Kim Sol-eum asked, Do you have any advice on how to use points? I could use the reference. Lee Jae-hyun answered, I do. Kim Sol-um felt like he had just unlocked lizard mode. Kim Sol-um asked, what else can points be used for? Lee Jae-hyun replied, this use is actually extremely important. Points can be used to customize equipment. That is something you might not fully understand yet. In truth, Kim Sol-um did understand, but he had not expected Lee Jae-hyun to bring it up himself. Daydream Company employees had one crucial trait. Every employee needed a piece of personal equipment that belonged only to them, and that equipment was incredibly important. In the original novel, Daydream Company, which collected dream dew from ghost stories, actually had one major problem. In higher-level ghost stories, shouldn't everyone die before the company could even collect any dream dew? The solution to that problem was the personal equipment system. The higher an employee's rank, the stronger their personal equipment became. That was the meaning of custom personal gear. Of course, these items would not directly grant employees ghost story level abilities. It was more like a slight boost to a special attribute. But since the gear existed purely for ghost story exploration, the details were vague, and Kim Sol-um could not remember the exact settings. This was an annex building beside the main company tower, where relatively safe and useful ghost stories were isolated and stored. For example, the radio in their office came from a ghost story that could tell you your fortune for the day. Daydream Company carefully selected useful ghost stories like that and called them Twilight Class. Twilight Class ghost stories were officially classified as E rank, but some were more useful and powerful than D rank stories, or safer than F rank stories, so they were given a separate label. As long as the employee had the right materials, the company could help customize their equipment. According to Lee Jae-hyun, the Twilight Class ghost stories, commonly used by the team to make equipment, came in 3 types. Toymaker's Fun Lab Airy 651, Seed Cultivation Kit Airy 99, and Derek Prepaid 404, which provided ritual services. Kim Sol-um had no idea which one he would end up using. Then Park Min-song reminded him, listen carefully. A very mysterious employee appeared in front of them. Park Min-song stepped forward and said, we are employees of the field exploration team. We are here for rookie training and request authorization to enter Twilight Class Darkness Area 99. The person only gave a slight nod and did not make a single sound. Then he led them through a large door. Kim Sol-um felt like the person's eyes were staring straight at him. He did not know whether it was just his imagination, but ahead of him was an incredibly dark hallway. Finally, they arrived at Area 99. When Kim Sol-um saw what was in front of him, his expression froze slightly. It was actually the Seed Cultivation Kit, and Daydream Company's identification code for it was Area 99. Their department had almost exclusive rights to use this darkness. If 2 items were placed inside, it would mix them together and create something new. However, using it required a certain number of points, basically an activation fee for the ritual. Each item cost 1,000 points per use, which made Kim Sol-um's heart ache. He quickly asked, can this be reimbursed? Park Min-song said, if you want reimbursement, you have to become an assistant manager first. At that rank, you can use it for free twice a year. Most people wait until they are promoted before using it. Anyway, you'll probably become an assistant manager within a year at most. Kim Sol-um had no idea what to do. Spending 1,000 points directly made his heart bleed. But since team leader Lee said it was useful, there had to be a reason. He definitely would not deliberately trick Kim Sol-um. If a veteran survival employee offered special treatment and suggested a way to increase a rookie's early survival rate, then following that advice was clearly the right choice. So Kim Sol-um decided to spend 1,000 points and try it now. Then he threw 2 items inside. As long as 2 items were placed into this darkness, it would create a new item by fusing them together. That meant the materials he used should ideally have some kind of practical special ability. Kim Sol-um actually already knew this, but he had no intention of acting like a prophet. So he patiently listened to Park Min-song finish explaining. Then, Park Min-song said, the team leader's equipment is the best among ours. Can you show it to the rookie? Lee Jae-hyun slowly opened the weapon pouch on his arm. It was a butter knife. If he used it to cut into a darkness entrance at the proper depth, it could slice through space and let small objects pass through. So that was how he had thrown the AAA battery to Kim Sol-um during Tuesday quiz show. It would have been nice if it were defensive equipment, but unfortunately, it did not seem to be. As for Park Min-song's equipment, it allowed him to pull off a few tricks. Irene's equipment was the communication button, so neither of them had defensive gear either. Kim Sol-um could probably find similar items to those 2 in the alien store. Then, Kim Sol-um borrowed the team leader's equipment and placed it on the device. A red light flashed across the machine. Next, Kim Sol-em had to choose the second item to put in. Park Min-sung immediately warned him, never put a real plant inside. The sensors at the entrance will filter them out anyway. Still, it is better to be safe. Even the weeds nearby are fake plastic plants. Hearing that, Kim Sol-em almost could not keep a straight face, because he suddenly remembered something recorded in the novel. Employee number 2 had once picked a wild plant near darkness. It was supposedly a dandelion, and he had fed it into the device twice. As a result, it took the security department 7 full days to suppress it. 3 people at the scene, including employee number 2, were confirmed dead, and all the plants had to be completely rooted out. Repeated violations will result in disciplinary action and even dismissal. In the other slot, people usually placed an everyday convenience item, but supernatural traits might be weakened during the transfer, or might not transfer at all. Even so, the team leader was willing to take that risk. Ever since they entered this place, Kim Sol-em had been mentally going through everything he owned. He was carrying quite a few supernatural items. Among them, the highest grade one was probably the silver coin snake he had bought from the Space Mall. The team leader asked what Kim Sol-em was holding, and Kim Sol-em casually replied, "Nothing much, just a travel souvenir coin. I thought it looked nice. Besides, it was easy to carry and looked pretty sturdy." Kim Sol-em did not know whether the team leader had seen through his lie, or whether he could recognize the item in his hand. But then again, this world was full of supernatural stories. Carrying 1 or 2 supernatural trinkets around should not be that strange. At worst, he could just say he had no idea what it was. The fusion process continued, almost as if the machine was asking someone to care for a plant. It would scan the owner's genetic information, and soon, the machine finished scanning all of Kim Sol-em's data. Then the screen displayed, integrating genetic data, generating set. In the next second, a green light shone before Kim Sol-em's eyes. The machine displayed seeding complete. But what Kim Sol-em never expected was that his first custom weapon would actually be a coin. Irene told him, "Try out your new weapon after you get home." After all, they were still inside a ghost story right now, so they absolutely could not let their guard down. Soon, Kim Sol-em returned to his room. The moment he got back, he could not wait to test his weapon. The seed kit's genetic combination had used 2 items, Lizard's butter knife and the silver coin snake he had bought from the alien store. And the custom weapon, created from those 2 items, was still a coin. Kim Sol-em had no idea how he was supposed to use it. At least, it had not failed like a gacha machine and spat out some ordinary arcade token. If it was a coin, maybe this was how it was supposed to be used. With that thought, Kim Sol-em tossed the coin into the air. As the coin slowly fell, he suddenly saw a transparent hand emerge from it. That hand floated right in front of him. Kim Sol-em had no idea what was going on. The hand made a gesture at him, as if telling him to insert a coin. Kim Sol-em did not know whether a 100 won coin would work, but he tried it anyway. It did not. So he tried a 500 won coin instead, and this time, there seemed to be no problem. Apparently, it thought 100 won was too cheap. The transparent hand immediately flew to his side. Then it attached itself to his hand, sank into his palm, and fused with him. The feeling was extremely strange, and a dark shadow appeared on the floor. When Kim Sol-em spread his fingers, the shadow spread its fingers too. But even now, he still did not understand what this ability actually did. Was it really just copying his movements? Kim Sol-em began carefully thinking about the true ability of this custom weapon. It moved along with Kim Sol-em's hand, so he thought he could probably call it a third hand. If that was the case, he could test its accuracy first. Kim Sol-em wrote in the air, while the hand wrote on a book. The words it wrote were almost the same as his movements, so there was no real problem with accuracy. He could even control the hand to close the door for him. He could also make it pry open a lid. Its range seemed to be around 3 meters. In other words, from now on, Kim Sol-em could turn off the lights without getting out of bed. However, the duration seemed to be only about 5 seconds. This was completely different from Lee Jae-hun's butter knife. That knife could bypass the spatial barrier between reality and darkness. But in exchange, this coin felt much easier to use inside ghost stories. At the very least, Kim Sol-em would no longer have to touch suspicious objects himself. So this draw could be considered a success. And his backpack now had a custom weapon coin. If 500 won could give him 5 seconds of telekinesis, that was honestly a pretty good deal. Kim Sol-em had to work hard enough to make that 1,000-point investment worth it. His physical condition was surprisingly good. Maybe it was because things had ended in a positive way. At least the people around him had been lucky. There was Senior Park, who did not act recklessly even in the face of death, and Irene, who trusted a rookie at the critical moment and lent him her equipment. Without Irene's trust, Kim Sol-um would never have been able to get help from the team leader. He did not know how many ghost stories he would have to deal with in the future. But strangely enough, he felt like he might be able to handle them. Maybe he could quietly endure all of this. At least that was what he used to think. The next day, Irene told Kim Sol-um that their mission assignment had changed. And that was exactly what Kim Sol-um feared hearing the most. Reassignment referred to changes in responsibilities or departments within the company. Normally, it only started happening once an employee's service time reached a yearly threshold. In other words, this was definitely not something he should be hearing on his third day at work. Of course, Irene knew that too. She asked, "Did you see the official notice? It was posted today. It's the Special Incident Handling Employee Reward Notice." To put it simply, a certain team handled a special incident, and it was an A-rank incident. Their performance was apparently amazing, so the company rewarded that team with 100,000 points. Hey, did you see that? You can do it too. So throw your lives away like moths flying into a flame, dive straight into ghost stories, and earn those points. If you want a wish voucher, learn from Team D. Main contributor, 40,000 points, Kim Sol-um. This was insane. They had completely exposed him. If this reassignment was because of that notice, then what kind of work would they be doing next? Irene grew a little impatient. "Did you see it or not? I'm asking whether you saw it." Kim Sol-um said, "I saw it," then asked, "Does this reassignment mean I have to switch departments? Or is the entire team being moved?" Irene said, "It is not exactly a completely new position. Our workload has just changed a little. Until now, we have mainly been recording and handling ghost stories with complete manuals. But from now on, the darknesses we enter will have no manuals at all. So the danger level will rise drastically." Kim Sol-um understood immediately. So the company is going to throw us into brand new horror stories without giving us any information. Honestly, this was absurd. The better you were at something, the harder they worked you to death. And of course, this came from people who only sat in offices and pushed paperwork. Just then, Lee Jae-hyun walked in as well, and Irene immediately asked angrily, "Boss, did you see that notice? Those bastards are basically telling us to die. They may not have said it directly, but sending us into darknesses with no manuals is the same as sending us to our deaths, isn't it?" Lee Jae-hyun said, "No." Kim Sol-um immediately wondered if there was some kind of loophole, but it turned out Lee Jae-hyun was just correcting Irene's wording. Even in ghost stories with complete manuals, people still die. Kim Sol-um was completely speechless, and so was Irene beside him. That was not how you told a dark joke. Wasn't a darkness without a manual obviously more dangerous? But, Lee Jae-hyun said, "I do not notice any real difference. After all, ghost stories without manuals were exactly the kind of jobs suited for employees who brute forced their way through them." In other words, this work was practically made for Lee Jae-hyun. So Kim Sol-um asked directly, "Then does this reassignment come with any benefits?" Lee Jae-hyun answered, "Yes, extra points." Sure enough, the moment everyone heard that, they all shivered. For people like them, the only hope in this place was earning as many points as possible. If there was a chance like this, of course they would not let it pass. The others immediately crowded around him. "Boss, are the extra points you mentioned a lot?" Lee Jae-hyun replied, "Compared to darknesses of the same rank, they are worth 3 to 4 times more, and can go as high as 15 times. Everyone instantly lost the will to complain, even their resentment vanished. If the reward was multiplied by 15, then even an F-rank mission would be worth 15,000 points. Looking at their eyes, Kim Sol-um felt like they were gamblers, and for a moment, he wondered if he should stop them. But if this really was gambling, then for Kim Sol-um, it was almost a guaranteed win. Because even without a manual, he still had the exploration records on his phone. In that case, wasn't this basically a triple points event? This was practically hitting the jackpot. If so, there was nothing left to hesitate about. They might as well hurry up and go earn a huge amount of points. First, they went to the 17th floor. Floors 17 to 20 were mainly used by development headquarters. More specifically, the 17th floor was where the research employees who searched for new darknesses worked. Just then, someone walked out in front of them. "I assume the person beside you is the rookie everyone has been talking about lately." Kim Sol-um had not expected to be treated like a celebrity after only 3 days on the job. Honestly, it felt kind of cool. The man slowly reached out his hand. He was a refined young man with white hair. "This task will not be easy either. Are you sure you are prepared?" At that moment, the white-haired man stood right in front of Kim Sol-um. Kim Sol-um had no idea who he was. But just from that smile, he knew this man was definitely not some minor character. The man held out his hand to Kim Sol-um. "I am Kwak Ji-kam from the research team. It is a pleasure to meet you." Kim Sol-um's expression instantly changed because he knew that name far too well. He immediately greeted Kwak Ji-kang respectfully. Irene told Kim Sol-um, Do not be nervous. He is just a minor supervisor. But Irene had no idea how impressive the man in front of them really was. He was an important named character. Kwak Ji-kung, an employee of Research Team 1 in Daydream Company's Raw Materials Development Department, had officially appeared in the novel. This researcher was frequently mentioned in newly registered darkness anomaly incidents, and he was one of the rare employees clearly described as cheerful and sociable. Although that was true, Kim Sol-eun decided not to make his reaction too obvious for now. Kwak Ji-kung also greeted Lee Jae-hyun. It seems we will be seeing each other often from now on. I look forward to working with you. Lee Jae-hyun reminded Kwak Ji-kung that it was time to explain the reason for their reassignment. Kwak Ji-kung explained that Research Team 1 was responsible for studying methods to enter new darkness anomalies, and exploring these new darkness anomalies would be Team D's next correction mission. Once Team D finished exploring the new darkness area and brought back the information, the research team would use that information to write a new exploration manual. In other words, this research team was the group that assigned Team D their work. Since everything had now been made clear, Kwak Ji-kung smiled and said, "Then welcome to the research team. Members of Team D, please pick up your Dream Dew collectors and review the civilian escape records, as well as the records of the teams that entered before you." Irene was extremely annoyed. That bastard was not even part of the field exploration team, so who gave him the right to act so arrogant and talk down to them? Just then, someone suddenly came over and spoke to Kim Sol-eun. "Excuse me, would you like to make a bet on what rank this darkness will be?" Kim Sol-eun did not understand what he meant at first. The person explained that he meant the darkness anomaly. They could make a small private bet and guess what rank it would be. Kim Sol-eun naturally had no interest and left right away. What if they got audited? And even if their direct supervisor saw this, would he really not care? But to his surprise, their supervisor not only did not care, he even supported it. A small bet would not kill anyone. So was there really a need to be that nervous? That might be true, but this was still a workplace. Wasn't this crossing the line a little? The person laughed and said, "I was just joking. This darkness is not exactly a life or death case, and quite a few civilians have entered it before and successfully escaped. The Disaster Management Bureau has been yelling all day about shutting it down, and apparently the planning team worked hard to barely keep the situation under control." Then Kwak Ji-kung handed Kim Sol-eun a record. Right now, the most important thing was the new darkness they were about to enter. But the contents left Kim Sol-eun completely confused. It seemed to mention something about a clown. Kwak Ji-kung handed him a tablet as well. "If you are ready, take a look at this first." When Kim Sol-eun opened it, there was only a clown standing in the center of the screen. It looked terrifying, and then it suddenly burst into bizarre laughter. Were clowns all like this? Why did they all look so crazy? But the problem was that the video felt far too real. Kim Sol-eun even felt as if something was patting against his body. In fact, his entire body became unable to move. At that moment, Kwak Ji-kung was wearing a blindfold, so this urban legend would drag you inside the moment you watched the video. Kwak Ji-kung chuckled. "Have a pleasant trip." Kim Sol-eun's heart instantly sank. He sincerely wished the Triple Points event could be cancelled right now. He really did not want to enter this clown dungeon. This ghost story was called The Clown Hates You, one of the ghost stories that appeared in the novel. Daydream Company's identification code for it was Trudy 220. It was a ghost story where people wandered forever through an endless hallway covered with all kinds of clown portraits. At that moment, Kim Sol-eun and the others were studying the clown portraits on the wall. If you looked carefully, those were not actually real clown makeup designs. Instead, they were smiling faces forcibly twisted into clown-like shapes by some unknown force. The longer people stayed, the stranger the portraits became, and anyone who disappeared inside this ghost story would become a new clown portrait. Honestly, it was rare to see a horror movie or theme park reach this level. Kim Sol-eun did not want to be here at all. Just the entry method had almost scared him to death. Honestly, any normal person would find this place terrifying. But then the team leader suddenly spoke. "It's fine. This dungeon is pretty simple. It's not as hard as I expected." Park Min-sung looked at the team leader. "Should we do a darkness adaptation exercise first?" The team leader replied, "Yes, close your eyes for 60 seconds. In a hallway filled with terrifying portraits like this, Kim Sol-eun could not understand where the team leader found the confidence to tell them to close their eyes for a full minute. They had no idea what would happen after closing their eyes, but Kim Sol-eun still obeyed, since the team leader was nearby. Right now, Kim Sol-eun could not sense any fear coming from either the clowns or the lizard. These were probably the kind of people whose adrenaline only spiked when they were near death, and who found horror movies so boring that they never watched them. But if those portraits really started moving, could they still stay calm? Kim Sol-eum seriously doubted it. Park Min-sung said, "If we touch these portraits, the clowns will come out and chase us." Several civilians escaped through empty frames. When Kim Sol-eum heard that, his brain almost shut down. The team leader gathered everyone together and said, "We will try once every hour." Did the civilians say those things crawled? If they crawl, they should be slow, so we will probably be fine. Park Min-sung smiled at Kim Sol-eum and said, "Do you see that weird-eyed clown beside you? It looks just like a movie poster." Hearing that, Kim Sol-eum casually glanced over, and he immediately made eye contact with the clown whose eyes were glowing red. Kim Sol-eum trembled all over and nearly fainted on the spot. But nobody noticed his condition, and he really wished someone would hold him steady. What shocked him even more was that Park Min-sung actually told him, "Touch that terrifying clown and let it come out to chase you." Of course, Kim Sol-eum was not going to touch it, and he absolutely would not let it come out. So he immediately said, "I already figured out how to escape." Everyone was stunned. "We have only been inside for 5 minutes, and you already figured out a method?" Right now, Kim Sol-eum absolutely could not look back. And for a coward like him, there was only one way to survive. Then, Kim Sol-eum took out the custom weapon coin on him, and this was his shortcut out of this place. He said, "I already found a way to escape." Then, Kim Sol-eum tossed the coin into the air. In the next second, a transparent hand emerged from the coin. Kim Sol-eum grabbed a handful of coins and stuffed several 500 won coins into the hand. Those coins instantly made the transparent hand enjoy a full meal. The effect of this custom weapon coin was simple. Once coins were inserted, he could remotely control the hand. And that hand was the escape method Kim Sol-eum had come up with. Time was tight, so he quickly explained it to everyone. First, these portraits are not just decorations. Among them, there is only one correct portrait. In other words, the portraits that jump out and chase people after being touched are all wrong choices. From now on, treat the portrait I describe as the correct target. Once I give the signal, everyone run together and search for the portrait matching that description. Kim Sol-eum asked the team leader whether he could follow his plan. Lee Jae-hyun replied, "Of course, a qualified team leader should listen to the rookie." The same went for his two seniors. They all had to follow Kim Sol-eum's instructions. Kim Sol-eum silently apologized in his heart. In truth, they did not need to run at all. The method to escape this urban legend was surprisingly simple. If someone had enough courage, they could simply touch the portraits one by one as they moved forward. But Kim Sol-eum could not do that. He might faint from fear the moment he touched one. So their only option was to speedrun their way out. They had now been inside this urban legend for 4 minutes. Next, they needed to speedrun this haunted house. Meanwhile, on the other side, a colleague asked Kwak Ji-kang, "Do you think betting on D rank is the safest choice?" Kwak Ji-kang smiled and said, "Let's keep that between us. Don't let anyone else hear." The colleague felt deep contempt inside, but still pretended to laugh along. Of all times, he had to name Kim Sol-eum now. What a mood killer. But the person who really ruined his mood was someone else. It was that ridiculously arrogant rookie from Team D. He had kindly included him in the betting pool, yet that rookie actually dared to glare at a superior. The colleague was extremely annoyed. He was just a lab rat. So why was he acting so important? In his heart, he even hoped Kim Sol-eum would die in that area. Just then, Kwak Ji-kang reminded him, "Finish the preliminary report before leaving today." The colleague glanced at the clock and thought that those people would not escape before clock out anyway, yet he still had to write this report now. At that moment, a suspicious advertisement popped up on his computer. He thought to himself that some people really were lucky enough to escape alive. According to the testimonies of civilian survivors in previous reports, they had returned to reality through the empty portrait that the clown escaped from. However, there was no information proving which portrait was the correct exit. The hallway's appearance, the portrait size, and even the frame shape were completely different in every survivor's testimony. So finding the exit was almost entirely based on luck. They had to wake up a clown first, then shake it off. Sometimes, they even had to kill it, pushing themselves until their stamina was completely drained. Because they had no idea which portrait was the correct one, they could only keep running in circles, sweating in panic. At this rate, at least one or two of them would die. In that colleague's heart, he was already hoping Kim Sol-eum and the others would die inside. But right then, the portal behind him suddenly lit up, and Park Min-sung walked out of it. The colleague was stunned. They had already cleared it, but how was that possible? How had they cleared it so quickly? And, judging from their expressions, they looked almost relaxed, as if they had barely put in any effort. The problem was that only 26 minutes had passed. They had actually cleared it in under 30 minutes. Kwak Ji-kan's eyes widened in shock. My goodness, how did you do it? Did Manager Lee's usual smash everything method work again? Lee Jae-hyun said, no. And Irene directly said, Kim Sol-um did everything. At that moment, Kim Sol-um slowly took off his mask. Hello. We meet again. Kwak Ji-kan was shocked. It was you again, Rookie? Then his eyes locked on to Kim Sol-um. Rookie, could you explain the clearance mechanism? Kim Sol-um had no problem with that. First, it came from the title of the advertisement we watched before entering this darkness. The title was The Clown Hates You. But there is a difference between a clown and a pierrot. That was the blind spot, because both are often simply translated as clown. A regular clown wears colorful makeup, performs while laughing, does tricks, and even tells stand-up jokes. But a pierrot is different. It is a French-style clown with black and white makeup and a sorrowful expression. The name of this darkness was the clue. The one who hated us was actually the pierrot. So I concluded that only that clown would not chase us. To verify that, we searched for a portrait with monochrome makeup. To stay safe, we kept a 3-meter distance and used the third hand to touch the portrait remotely. As a result, the clown in the portrait quietly disappeared. That is all. That was the entire process. Kwak Ji-kan seemed almost sick with excitement. He had figured out such a clear mechanism in such a short amount of time. Even the colleague beside him was stunned. That was way too fast. But soon he noticed a problem. According to the records, once light hits them, all the clowns jump out. In such a dark place, how did you recognize that clown? Kim Sol-um replied, that was thanks to the team leader. Lee Jae-hyun could identify it at a glance, because darkness does not affect him at all. After that, Park Min-son lent Kim Sol-um his notes, so Kim Sol-um copied out a manual as well. Kim Sol-um handed the manual over. Kwak Ji-kan kept expressing his amazement. In other words, you inferred everything here from only preliminary information. Thanks to you, the exploration manual prototype will be completed very soon. But the colleague felt that none of this made sense. That rookie had escaped in under 30 minutes, under such extreme conditions, and had even constructed such a complete theory. Was that guy really human? Or was he some kind of monster disguised as a person? Then, Park Min-sung spoke up. Team leader, if you brought that thing out of the darkness, according to the rules, you have to hand it in. Lee Jae-hyun casually handed over a piece of white cloth. It turned out that when the clown in the portrait tried to run away, Lee Jae-hyun had pounced on it directly. The result was obvious. That clown had been beaten into submission. The colleague was completely dumbfounded. What kind of strange duo were these two? But looking closely, both of them looked pretty cool, and they even had a slight resemblance. Could they be relatives or something? Then, Kwak Ji-kan asked Kim Sol-um, did you happen to receive a card? Kim Sol-um paused. What card? I'm a new employee. My business cards haven't even been printed yet. That answer clearly displeased Kwak Ji-kan, and he even laughed in frustration. I didn't expect you to be so good at playing dumb. I'm obviously talking about something else. Kim Sol-um immediately understood what he meant. He was probably talking about the mysterious card Kim Sol-um had received when he joined the company. That thing had been tucked beside the box. But Kim Sol-um did not understand how Kwak Ji-kan knew about it. Kwak Ji-kan told him, try contacting it. Maybe you can earn points much faster that way. Kim Sol-um rejected him immediately. Kwak Ji-kan did not understand. If it can help you earn points faster, why refuse? Of course, Kim Sol-um understood that part. But he also understood what might happen next. There was a chance he would be thrown into an even more dangerous place. Just thinking about it was enough to keep him awake all night. Besides, low-level darknesses now gave triple points as long as he cleared them. Anything more terrifying than that could stay far away from him. Kim Sol-um did not know how far the items he had would carry him, but so far, nothing had truly gone wrong. Over the next period of time, they cleared another darkness again, and once again, they did it within an hour. This made the people around them look at them with pure envy. How many times has this been already? Team D is practically finishing the manual by themselves. Thanks to their lucky star, Team D has cleared multiple new darkness dungeons within a month. Kim Sol-um really is something else. Kim Sol-um said modestly, not at all. It's all thanks to my seniors guiding me well. That month, their team accumulated more than 5,000 points in total. And Kim Sol-um's own company points had already reached 45,000. His two seniors were even mocking the rookies who had joined at the same time as him, saying, those people have made no noise at all, not even a tiny splash. Last night, when he returned to the dorm, Kim Sol-um even threatened Viper Baek Si-hun. I heard you're entering a darkness exploration tomorrow. Want to bet on how many civilians died in there? But all of that was just an act, meant to maintain his dangerous persona. Then, the team leader told Kim Solum to sit down. Your recent performance has been outstanding. You know that yourself, right? If you can achieve this much, the higher-ups will definitely pay attention and keep an eye on you. So if anyone makes any strange requests of you, make sure you tell us. We will cover for you as much as we can. At the very least, Manager Lee will be on your side. Kim Sol-um nodded. Clearly, there was nothing he could do about it. Since he had already been contacted, if this was something he had to shoulder, then he had no choice but to shoulder it. The only thing worth feeling relieved about was that, according to big company habits, rookies like them usually would not be given truly heavy responsibilities. So there probably would not be anything harder than what they were already doing. But when they entered the next ghost story, they escaped again within an hour. This made Lee Jae-hyun extremely annoyed, because the research team had worked themselves to death and had barely scraped together 500 points. Kwak Ji-kang also noticed Lee Jae-hyun's dissatisfaction and said, "We researchers do not even get danger pay." Team leader Lee, I heard this darkness anomaly also needs multiple people to handle it. It will need around 10 people. So this should count as a team cooperation mission. Kwak Ji-kang drew a few lines on the paper with his pen, thinking about which team would be most suitable to send. He drew Team A, Team D, and Team Y. Then Kwak Ji-kang suddenly said, "What a shame." This confused Lee Jae-hyun a little. Team D looks like it has a bright future lately, because they might be entering a darkness together with Team A. Team A has elites, doesn't it? If they go in together, there shouldn't be any problem, right? Kwak Ji-kang reminded him. Team leader Lee, you really are forgetful. You know what our company is like, don't you? Although most companies are basically the same, but you should know that once people enter a darkness, someone always has to step forward and make the necessary sacrifice. Lee Jae-hyun immediately understood. Now that you put it that way, that really is true. And so, 3 days later, Kim Sol-um and the others were summoned. When they opened the door, many people had already gathered inside. Kim Sol-um asked Irene, "Are we entering with another team today?" Irene replied, "Yes, judging from the situation, that seems to be the case. Members from other teams have been summoned too." Then a golden-haired man said to Kim Sol-um, "So, you are the famous Kim Sol-um." Kim Sol-um nodded, but he quickly noticed that the man's mask had a golden mark on it. The golden-haired man seemed to think highly of him. "Young man, you have a bright future. Let's talk again when we get the chance." After saying that, he walked back toward his own team members. Irene behind Kim Sol-um told him, "Take a good look. Their masks have golden marks on them, which means they are members of Team A." Meanwhile, the members on the other side were all from Team Y. But Team Y was not to be underestimated either. Park Min-sung quietly reminded Kim Sol-um, Team Y's leader is not part of management but an ordinary employee. Either way, Kim Sol-um decided it was better to keep some distance from Team Y. Then, Kim Sol-um spotted a familiar figure in the crowd. That person had joined the company at the same time as him. Kim Sol-um still remembered what he had asked during the onboarding welcome ceremony. Could that thing that grants wishes bring the dead back to life? Park Min-sung said, "I will explain the reason later," but Kim Sol-um could already roughly guess. Park Min-sung even praised him. "You are incredibly sharp. Almost like you have a clever little guide following you around." At that moment, Kwak Ji-kang also arrived to brief everyone on the darkness anomaly area they were about to enter. But honestly, there was barely anything to explain about this anomaly. The golden-haired man who had spoken to Kim Sol-um earlier immediately asked Kwak Ji-kang, "What does that mean?" Kwak Ji-kang replied, "It means the research team also knows almost nothing about this darkness." Irene looked annoyed and was about to argue, but Park Min-sung stopped her. "Just don't say anything." Kim Sol-um's heart sank. This was extremely serious. If even the research team did not know what was inside, then this was most likely a total party death type of darkness where no one had made it back alive. And entering this darkness required at least 10 people. However, after some initial investigation, the research team had still managed to find a few clues. The theme of this large-scale darkness manifestation was Joyland. 12 students had gone missing during a club exchange event, and their whereabouts were unknown. The cause was a board game with the trademark Joyland theme park. According to survivor testimony, the board game had been inside a nursing home, but the owner of the nursing home denied that claim. In the end, some of them returned to reality after 17 hours. That 7 people died. The survivors claimed that they had been trapped inside a theme park within the board game, and they showed various symptoms, including delusions, PTSD, and mild neurosis. At this point, Kim Sol-um had finished reading the entire report. Kwak Ji-kang then brought over a box. He smiled and said, Now then, let us open these gacha capsules. We will divide everyone into groups based on the color of the game pieces inside the capsules. There are 3 colors in total. In other words, everyone here would be shuffled into different groups. Kim Sol slowly opened a capsule and poured out a red game piece. He wondered why it had to be red. In the real world, color would not matter that much. But in the world of ghost stories, red always felt ominous, and it made him uneasy. Soon, everyone had drawn their game pieces, and they began unfolding the game board. Once the game board opened, they would officially step into the darkness. But strangely enough, they were not transported into the game world. Then, Kim Sol suddenly asked, "Is each color supposed to have 4 people, including me? There are only 3 people with red pieces, right?" It seemed 11 people were not enough to enter. They needed 12 people, just like the roster said. If they tried one more time, it should work. So Kwak Ji-kang took out another capsule. He tossed the capsule to Lee Jae-hun. Lee Jae-hun clumsily caught it. Then, he poured out a red game piece. In that instant, an ominous premonition washed over Lee Jae-hyun. But it was already too late to react. He was about to be transported into the game world, and a colorful whirlpool appeared beneath his feet. Now, they were heading to Fantasyland Joyland. Lee Jae-hyun's entire body began spinning, and it was not just him. Everyone else was spinning too. This Joyland strategy run was extremely risky. Kwak Ji-kang stepped up to the large pit. He laughed and said, "Have a pleasant trip." Kim Sol did not know why, but the more he looked at this man, the more annoyed he became. From what he knew about Kwak Ji-kang, this guy was a ghost story-obsessed lunatic. He had a sick habit of encouraging combinations or actions that were doomed to cause death, just to extract unique data. Soon, everyone entered the amusement park. Lee Jae-hyun had been spun so badly that he looked dizzy and almost wanted to throw up. At that moment, Kim Sol seemed to hear music playing inside the park. Looking around, it really did look like a normal amusement park. There were many mascot NPCs inside, and at first glance, the place did not seem dangerous at all. Inside this Joyland theme park, the main group had arrived, and the elite Team A had already begun moving. However, the teams deployed with them were not another elite squad, but Team D and one other team. The extra person added to the group was a researcher with no exploration experience at all. The goal of this exploration was not to clear the game with the highest number of survivors. The real purpose of this operation was to eliminate everyone and leave only one team behind. Now, the music playing inside the park made Kim Sol feel a chill down his spine. Kim Sol immediately checked his phone holder. He found that it had turned into a wrist-mounted device. It gave him a prompt: the Dark Exploration Log, Ghost Story, Joyland Theme Park. After entering this ghost story, riding the main attractions will allow you to return home. Based on Kim Sol-um's analysis, this should be a B-rank darkness, and the civilian survival rate was only 2%. In other words, the survivors had probably only escaped by pure luck. Team D was really in danger now. But right then, Kim Sol-um's heart suddenly sank. Lee Jae-hyun suddenly shouted, "Let me out of here." The moment his voice rang out, Kim Sol-um saw the park NPCs begin to move. Kim Sol-um instantly felt that something was wrong. This guy really was an idiot. He immediately covered Lee Jae-hyun's mouth and told him, "Be quiet. This is a B-rank darkness. If you don't want to die, stay quiet." Sure enough, Lee Jae-hyun also sensed that something was wrong. The rabbit NPCs had all gathered in front of him. Not only that, the other rabbits turned their heads at bizarre angles. They stared straight at Lee Jae-hyun, along with several rabbits above them. Then a 3-second countdown appeared. After 3 seconds passed, everything returned to normal. Only then did Kim Sol lightly pat Lee Jae-hyun on the back. But at that moment, a woman wearing a butterfly mask walked over. She kicked Lee Jae-hyun right in the face. What had just happened had clearly enraged her. She could not understand how such an idiot had been allowed to enter a darkness. Lee Jae-hyun was beaten into begging for mercy. The woman only said coldly, "If you make another sound, I will kill you first." Kim Sol-um really had not expected this woman to be so vicious. He was already starting to miss his own Team D seniors. It would have been so much better if he had been grouped with them. Kim Sol even began to wonder whether he could make it out of this darkness alive. After all, these people would not listen to his instructions at all.